Hello, everybody. Welcome back from a longer than expected break between content. I'm Lenny. I'm not the host of this channel, but due to extenuating circumstances, I will be hosting this year's E3 podcast Extravaganza. Is that the title? Yeah, that's the title now. So, without further ado, let me introduce our luxurious co-hosts, starting with Perry.
Hello, senores and senoritas.
And the innumerable Jalen.
Hello, beautiful people. I hope you're still beautiful.
Wait, you said innumerable. Does that imply there's like an infinite number of Jalen's?
we have enough of a time with just one. Having more than three would be quite the handful. So,
Except for the ladies.
oh god.
Oh,
All right.
yeah.
So we saw basically everything at E3 this year, and as is customary for this channel, how long have we been doing this? Has it been 3 years or 4 that we've been doing this?
I think it's been 3.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
I feel that 3 at least with mainly this group, but I know Jalen and we've been doing this with Adolfo for a little bit longer than that. Like what, 4 years?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Because I remember us originally doing it with Matt and the old crew way back when.
Very cool.
Those
So
bygone
we'll
days.
say, present party aside of myself, it's been a long-standing tradition, so we'd like to keep it going. First off, just we're gonna give a little bit of a eulogy to the free time of Adolfo. He could not make it due to current parenthood situations. Press your F key to pay his respects, as we will be continuing in his stead.
If only I had some bagpipes right now, I'd be playing Amazing Grace right now.
I'll whip up something, dramatic to play over this segment.
If I had
So-
a piano, I played in the F key.
Just everyone, he's gonna start playing the Asura's Wrath soundtrack.
I swear to God, Perry, you can't look into the future like that. That's cheating.
So I should also give a warning to advance everyone. If I start to act more smartass than usual, just keep in mind I'm a little bit tired from traveling a lot the last couple of days.
And if I sound tired, I'm not. I'm having whiskey to help along with the first conference we're gonna have to go through, which is a perfect segue. Starting off the E3 festivities this year was EA, Electronic Arts themselves. Boy howdy.
Yay.
Boy howdy. They
I felt like I needed a drink after watching that.
they did stuff this year, and so here's the format we're gonna be going in. We're gonna be bringing up each title as they come across, and just discussing all of our thoughts on it as we go. Buckle in. This could be multiple hours long. This is not gonna necessarily be a quick summary unless we're all about to pass out. So, here we go. First
Also,
on the chopping block. Sorry, what were you going to say, Perry?
My apologies. I was going to say, for my format, I'm going to do something a little bit different where I will do the conferences I have in order, but I'm going to go in increasingly giving a fuck about the title in terms of one I give the least crap about to one I give the most crap about for my conferences, if that's okay. I want to at least end it on a good note.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you feel free to do whatever format you want. I trust you both to be able to handle this in a interesting manner. And honestly, I'd rather you do it in a way that you're passionate about, because if I tried to make you conform to the format that I want to do, less enthusiasm is not going to result in a good format. So, off we go.
Also, make sure that we have expletives ready at our disposal, just so because I expect everyone's going to have some obscenities to be said.
Correct.
Yeah, mother.
Very good.
Anyways, Lenny, go for it.
Number 1 for the announcements that EA showed off is Battlefield 5. I'm just gonna start off a little bit with this, because people may only know this based off of the controversies that people are talking about and everything else. I don't think it's going to necessarily be a mechanically bad game, so that's not where my concerns lie. My only concern is with the way the series is going. And here's my main thing, alright? In short, the things they showed off in the trailers are showing things that many people agree are highly historically inaccurate. This is not in and of itself bad. I've played plenty of games that have, like, alternate history or are not accurate to history or other things. You know, there's a million things where they have moments like that. So I'm not opposed to inaccuracies in history as much as Battlefield tends to sell itself on being, we'll say, grounded in history. Not that it's always exactly realistic, because of course, you know, one-man army, you know, plowing across the fields of World War II to survive the whole thing, you know, it's not realistic. But at the very least, it tries to make itself grounded in what actually happened. And the main thing that people have shown is, for example, in the trailer, which they now say is the multiplayer trailer, is that... I'm gathering my thoughts, I'm sorry. The various people have blue face paint. British soldiers are not only carrying Japanese swords, but one of them in particular is a female infantryman that is a sniper and also has a prosthetic arm. I don't know how many ways we can go into how and why that is highly inaccurate for the time period, but luckily we have a official historian on our hands. So, Perry, does blue face paint, Japanese swords, and female infantry snipers with prosthetic arms sound typical for British soldiers?
No.
Alright. It's official.
Definitive.
We did it. But
No, okay. Just to elaborate, I will fully confess right now that World War II, and I'm assuming that's the correct time frame for Battlefield 5, yes?
yes.
Okay, so World War II is not my strong suit at all. That would be more for my father, considering he's a more modern war type person. And I'm saying World War II is modern in the context of just historical narrative. Anyways, yeah, having prosthetic limbs, I can tell you this from probable experience, well, not experience, just from what I've heard down the grapevine. If you were a soldier and had your limb broken off or blown off due to war injury or something like that, it's most likely not going to happen that you're going to still be in active duty. So I have some questions about that.
Mm-hmm. No, I
This takes place in the Metal Gear timeline.
Yeah. Also, I do. Well, okay. Let's be fair. Even though it's the person probably would be going off the design of Phantom Pain, at least Battlefield 5 will likely still be finished.
Right.
So yeah, this, as far as I can tell, is wildly not grounded in what we could assume is our history.
And truth be told, I'm not inherently against that notion. It's just that I've talked to people within the fan base, and they're basically like, if I wanted inaccurate, like, historical stuff, they would say that they would go, just for example, to the older Call of Duty games, or to something else where they can get the sort of either over-the-top action or less historical accurate stuff, or other stuff. Like, there's, like, Darkest Hour, you know, where you're doing, like, time travel shit. You don't need everything to 100% conform, but some people are kind of saying that this is one of the few places where you can get it from a AAA studio, like, consistently, and so they're delving away from that for unknown reasons. Now, there's a lot of variables, we'll say, as to why they might be doing this. I would chalk it up mainly to competition. I've heard some people say that this is, like, some sort of, like, progressive bent that they're on, you know, with, like, oh, we're including women and disabled people, but that's kind of a, as much as I'm not fond of that, that's a very simple boogeyman sort of a thing, you know, just to kind of pin it on them. Seems like it's way too easy of a thing, and game development is very multifaceted. I think it's much more likely that they're trying to appeal to the high amount of customization that's becoming more prevalent in multiplayer shooters, as well as the zany factor. Not that every game is zany, but I feel like they're trying to appeal to more variety of visuals when it comes to this, because previously you didn't have that. a ton in the Battlefield games. It's always very much like customize your weapons, and then the gameplay speaks for itself, and then, it didn't really matter otherwise. So that's where I would say is the factor here is they're trying to catch up to their competition in certain aspects that the fan base themselves never cared about.
Yeah, I'm not even certain why this would even need to be done, because as far as I'm aware, Battlefield, as given its origins, I always assumed that it was trying to be similar to that of Medal of Honor, where you could still, or at least the old Medal of Honor games, where the older games focused more on the actual respect and recreation of battles of what the soldiers would have been through and the time frames that the games take place in. So them wanting to now diverge from what made it appealing in the first place to now adding all these customization features just seems to me a little unnecessary. It seems like I don't understand why you would feel the need to do this in the first place.
I agree. I don't think it's a
Yeah.
wise decision.
Mm.
Plus, I know when you were mentioning, I was like, oh, we're trying to include women and disabled people. It's like, well, let's be perfectly frank. It's not unheard of for women to serve in combat, but it was, let's put it lightly, a rarity to find a woman on the battlefield during World War II. In fact, I can't personally name an instance of where I've heard of one. Now, the only time when I've ever heard of this happening is, say, during the Pacific Theater, where America was threatening the invasion of Japan. Japan was training women and children to fight with sticks in the streets. So that's an instance of where they were being trained, but I don't know anything like that in the European theater. So I'm not so certain why they're basically seems like altering history to suit an agenda.
Yeah, I don't get it either, because, again, I don't mind the notion of it, because, again, alt history is fine, but if it's like you have to pick, is my thing. This is why when they do that shit in Call of Duty's never, as far as I can tell, tried to have historical accuracy. They've always tried to been, either, here is a sort of, I don't want to say cinematic, but we'll say kind of stylized, heroic representation of what happened, in, the first 3 games, and then you get to 4, and then it's like, okay, now we have a drama set up that's mirroring what we have in our current political climate, but it doesn't match any specific actual real-world events, and that's fine. It's like, if they wanted to tell a general tale that mirrored stuff in World War II without it actually being like that, I think it would have been better, for example, if they, I don't know, this is gonna sound out of nowhere, but they made, fictional countries and had, certain, figureheads that didn't match actual historical ones. Not because that would make the situation better, but because the situation they're in now is because this is what they specifically said at the press conference. They specifically said, this is our take on World War II. They didn't say, this is an alternate history version of World War II. They said, this is our take, as if it's, a completely valid historical viewpoint to have, all these customization options.
See, here's the thing I want to bring up. I feel like they wanted to be really, really different, do something extremely different, but they were afraid to do it with a new IP. You know?
I guess I can understand that, but here's the thing that I would say. If they were that afraid of doing a new IP, I would give a suggestion to them, and it's very simple, and maybe this is oversimplifying it, but a simple subtitle could have changed all of this. Rather than making this Battlefield 5, you could have made it, Battlefield, I don't know, war stories or something, where you basically make it into stories of certain fictional individuals within the overall context of World War II, and then state that these are fictional ones that are inspired by true world stories or something, so that when you do have these specific stories, it's not meant to be portrayed as a realistic depiction as much as a sort of what-if scenario. Kind of like how... Sorry, go ahead.
So basically like a Battlefield anthology.
Yeah, kind of like well, I mean, just to give a different example, it's like Battlefield Hardline. You know, that's a spin-off where you play as like, you know, cops and robbers. It's completely different from everything else that they did before, and it allows them to kind of, we'll say, get away with it, because even though that one came out after Battlefield 4, it's not considered Battlefield 5. You know, and Battlefield 1 isn't considered Battlefield 6. It kind of allows them to get away with it because it's not the main title or the mainline title.
That's a good idea, Lenny.
Spin-offs get a lot more leeway, I think.
That's true.
It would still get some backlash, I think, but it wouldn't be nearly as heavy as what they're getting right now.
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty fair statement.
Mm-hmm. But that aside, that's just the talk about the controversy. Controversy aside, there's another element that people have been bringing up, and that is the fact that it is adding a Battle Royale mode at launch.
Which surprised absolutely no one.
It's trendy, you guys. It's trendy.
It's so trenderific, guys. It's
not
going
so
to die out
right now,
immediately.
Already getting burnt out.
Yeah, actually, though, like, I actually do have some people who are, like, getting burnt out. I have people who are, like, huge PUBG fans, like, you know, the quote-unquote original, because it's so fucking original, guys. But we'll say that is the significant origination point. I have PUBG fans who are already like, I'm not playing it anymore because so many other games are doing it that it's becoming just, like, oversaturated. You know, because they're basically like, I can't stand Fortnite people, and so I'm just not gonna do it.
That's sad, because it's only been, what, a year, maybe 2?
Mm-hmm. It's a rather short-lived trend, and it's not even like the gameplay mode itself is actually that bad. I just feel like the way that it's just being kind of added onto stuff is very, I don't know, shallow. This doesn't feel like a... Well, okay, here's the thing. When a company decides to do something that is good for the consumer, that's one thing. This doesn't feel like we're doing this because it's what the consumers expect of our product. It feels like, hey, you can buy our shit now because it has the popular thing. You know, like, it's the same thing with, like, say, when you have every fucking grocery store and toy store now has fidget spinners in it. Like, it just became popular for a month, and now all of them are selling it, because even though they had the ability to sell it before, they never cared specifically about selling toys that people would enjoy. They care about whether or not people are going to buy something that's popular. You know, and
yeah, I mean, it seems like an easy way just to grab people's attention when it comes to at least gaming right now. And it just makes me wonder, is this going to start becoming a running gag where anytime a new mode really hits its stride really fast, I wonder if other modes, like other future gameplay ideas, will start to go this way and people will just become really burnt out on the idea really fast.
mm-hmm.
I think it's starting to look that way. And I think people will just get burnt out faster as we go along, unless developers start innovating the modes quicker. But I don't see that happening.
I mean, it seems like lately people are just becoming more and more, I don't know, I guess easier to burn out when it comes to an idea of something, because let's be fair, this is only just the recent idea of something new, or at least something that's really caught on with the industry. Whereas something before, say, like zombies, has been going on for like several years. I mean, you remember when it felt like every other game was including a zombie killing mode or something like that?
Jesus Christ, when I graduated from high school, they were still making zombie games.
Yep.
And we probably just got out of that maybe about 2 to 3 years ago.
Yeah, I'd say we're probably in its, like, death throes right now, and not that it's necessarily going to be the end of it, not even I think it's going to be bad, and obviously we'll discuss this later for the Sony show, but I feel like Last of Us Part 2 is going to be, like, the death rattle of the zombie genre.
Or just to be a little bit more thematic, this is going to be the life support version.
I wouldn't even say that. I'd say between that and Days Gone, it's going to be like a swan song, sort of like that's it, no one cares about zombies anymore sort of thing. Although, we also have to talk about Resident Evil 2, which that's a whole nother fucking story. But
Well, we'll get to that.
yeah, but that aside, when it comes to Battlefield 5 in general, I've heard, I think they said other stuff along the lines of how they're not going to be charging a season pass for this, which I think that's good. I think EA is trying to be more aware of it, although this is EA. They have a tendency to completely fuck things up and lie, so let's just temper expectations, especially because I was going to be honest, I don't plan to get Battlefield 5. I was thinking about getting Battlefield 1 for a time, but I just really don't care for either of that, except for I did rent it for a short period of time, and I did play the first level. I'd say the first level alone is worth a rental for Battlefield 1. I mean, I don't mean to go off topic, but just play it, and I'll rant and rave about it some other time. But that's all I have to say about Battlefield 5. It's another Battlefield game. It's doing things the fan base doesn't like, and it's trying to jump onto a popularity trend. And it's EA as usual. So that's all I've got. You guys have anything else for that one?
No, I'm good.
I will say one thing.
What's that?
EA, please. If you're gonna fuck it up, either do it months before the release or after everyone's bought the game. Don't do it like 2 days before.
Okay.
Oh, I do have one more thing to say. I have my giant truckload of salt ready to go.
I'm glad you're prepared, Perry.
I have one specifically designated for EA by itself.
Amazing. Speaking of salt, this will pertain particularly to you, Perry. We're gonna move on to our next title here, and I'm gonna make this a twofer, just because this is pertaining either to stuff that we have so little information that it's not worth mentioning, or it's a game that's already out. So I'm just gonna be very brief with it. Battlefront 2 is now going to be including more free content, specifically focusing on the Clone Wars part of the Star Wars history. This is going to involve like the fight on Geonosis, General Grievous, younger Obi-Wan, and Anakin Skywalker for their content, and they're going to be doing that as part of like free updates.
That's nice.
I mean, it's cute that they're now including stuff from the Clone Wars, but it's Battlefront 2. I literally have negative reasons to care at this point.
Fair enough. And the second part of this little twofer that I mentioned is that Respawn is working on the next Star Wars game, and it's called Jedi Fallen Order. And
do we get to play as a Jedi in it?
I believe so. Otherwise, very misleading title. And that you will be playing as a Jedi in between the time period between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope.
God damn it, why this again?
Because, Perry, no one wants to touch Knights of the Old Republic era. They don't want to even try to top it. They don't even want to try.
God, I am so damn sick of you see, that was one thing I was actually kind of hoping for, considering it was Respawn. I was like, okay, so maybe it's from the Titanfall crew. I mean, Titanfall 2, from what I heard, was really, really good. So maybe they could do something interesting with it. It's like, nope, it's just going to be set in the time frame between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, because that cow hasn't been milked to death already yet.
Hey. We haven't killed any stormtroopers as a rogue Jedi before.
Actually, wait, hold on. Wouldn't technically Starkiller count at Force Unleashed 2? Also,
that's a technicality.
Didn't Kyle Katarn become like a rogue Jedi during his time in the games?
That was after the trilogy was over.
I have no idea. The only info I have is that, well, one, Perry, you're right. Titanfall 2 was amazing. I love it. I wanted to have my children. But that aside, the specific story plot is that you are a surviving Padawan, and it takes place very shortly after the events of Episode 3. And then you go from there, and the idea is that the Jedi are being hunted, and you're one of these hunted Jedi, and you have to survive being hunted. And whether you do or don't is, well, I would assume you don't because, fucking lore. But, and that's set for holiday of 2019. That's literally all we have, so I expect it to be a good product, but I share your sympathies in regards to, like, wishing it wasn't just a time period that's been covered already.
Well, it's not just the time period that's been covered already, because I know there's so much stuff and time that happened during then. But the thing is, we all know that this isn't going to matter, because let's face it, we already know how everything is going to end. Now, I understand the prequels setting up context for how Anakin became Darth Vader, but that was fine because that was information we didn't know. We didn't know how Anakin became who he was and how he became the villain that we all know and begrudgingly like, because the fact that he's a dick. Anyways, my biggest problem with Jedi Fallen Order is because it's going to center around characters who we literally are not going to have any point of caring about because they have no bearing as to affecting the plot of the original trilogy whatsoever. I mean, think about it. There's not going to be that one random bar attendee on Tatooine who just so happened to be there when Luke and Ben met Han for the first time, and suddenly he's going to get a game about it. Who knows? Maybe it will be the freaking, what's the species name? Is it called the Bantas, the one that playing in the band?
I think so, yeah.
Like one of those. Like, what are we going to do? Start getting a game about them, about how they were involved with the Inquisition of the Jedi or something like that?
I'd like a rhythm game involving them, to be fair.
Okay. Let's get the crew behind Elite Beat Agents to do that. That'd be amazing. Okay, I actually would get that. That'd be funny for novelty's sake. Anyways, this is my point. None of what this character is going to do in Fallen Order is going to matter at all. Now, you could make if this was said, say, before the Phantom Menace, say, I don't know, fighting Darth Plagueis or something like that, that actually might have me a little bit interested. But I don't think this just bugs the crap out of me. It's like, why is everyone such a massive boner for between Revenge of the Sith and New Hope? If everyone keeps going on and on and on about how much of an amazing lore and timeline that Star Wars universe have, why do we have to keep following the same 15 freaking years between them all? Actually, wait, is it 15 years or 19 years? I keep forgetting.
I think it's 19.
Okay,
yeah,
19.
Yeah.
Same 19-year period between two movies that arguably are the best of their respective trilogies.
To be fair, Perry, everyone's picking dumb plots. We could have some real interesting plots, but everyone keeps picking dumb plots. You would love a game where you played as like a roguish like Han Solo, and he was just doing random ass roguish Han Solo things, and he was shooting stormtroopers, other shooting things, and then fighting in space.
We already had a game like that. It was called Shadows of the freaking Empire.
Yeah, but it'd be better because it'd be on the PS4 and PC in 2018.
Well, now that you actually mentioned that, I actually kind of wouldn't mind seeing a Shadows of the Empire remake on PS4. That actually would be kind of neat.
Yep.
At least then we can actually get a decent Hoth battle segment again.
Shoot, you know what? I want Adventures of Han Solo that kind of plays like the Indiana Jones game on the PS2. That'd be cool.
And just like that, just like the Han Solo movie, no one is going to care.
Yeah, that's true.
I would want a Han Solo game that plays out like Uncharted.
You know what? That actually isn't a half bad idea.
Like, I mean,
I was kind of thinking that when I brought up that kind of thing.
Yeah, as soon as you said Indiana Jones, I'm like, okay, we need a guy who's like a smarmy, charming douchebag who shoots a lot of things. Hey, that's Han Solo. We can make that work.
Literally just bought Uncharted 1 just to put Han Solo in it.
Shit, that's a good idea. Damn.
Yeah.
PC modding community, get on that.
Right. But it's so I think there's one thing that can potentially save this, all right? Rather than make it something about plot relevancy in regards to, like, Jedi Fallen Order, for like having it be super relevant to the plot of everything else, I think it'd be really cool if you had it as, like, we'll say, a character study, where you focus on making a really well-written character and then we'll say have them deal with the inevitability of the Jedi being wiped out, you know. And maybe if you really want to have them contribute a little something to the plot, it can be very minor or even like nothing at all, but like I just think having someone realize that they're part of like a certain sect of like people that are like, you know, being targeted and set to be like wiped out by like this giant foreboding force, and then coming to terms with it, you know, in a sort of like Jedi way, you know, very kind of like, I don't know, Eastern philosophy sort of a thing. I think that could lead to a very interesting story. Although, as much as I enjoyed the story that they did in Titanfall 2, I think that might be a little bit too esoteric for them to handle, and also too esoteric for a majority of the fan base to enjoy, because I'm just going to be completely honest. I really like that pretentious bullshit, and I don't think that's technically fitting for what Respawn is known for.
Although, to be fair, you don't like all pretentious bullshit.
Well, yeah, not all pretentious bullshit. Fucking Tree of Life. Yeah. But
we don't need to bring that one up again.
No, we don't. But
can I just throw another idea hat in the ring?
Sure.
Okay, so kind of jumping off of what you were saying about coming to terms with the inevitability of the end of the Jedi Order. What if this one Jedi, just hear me out, what if this has nothing to do with anything that happens in any of the original trilogy, but instead is a Jedi who is a Padawan using his limited knowledge of the Jedi Order, because I'm assuming if it's a Padawan, doesn't know everything, tries to reestablish the Jedi Order somewhere in the unknown regions.
So like the Outer Rim or something, right?
Well, no, the Outer Rim is a different sector of the Star Wars galaxy. I'm talking the unknown regions, as in the part of the Star Wars galaxy that has never really been fully charted out. Like, there's some planets that are known about, such as the Chiss homeworld, like where Grand Admiral Thrawn is from.
Yeah.
But in terms of the unknown regions, if you were going to try and avoid persecution from the Empire, you literally could not find a better place to hide than in a spot of space that literally no one has mapped out.
Fair enough.
I mean, it makes perfect sense. I mean, if you're gonna hide where nobody knows where to look.
Mm-hmm. I guess while that would be a pretty interesting story from a narrative perspective, I'm wondering how that would play into actual gameplay or action.
I mean, it could work similar to, say, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, where you're going to try to become another Jedi Master in your own way. I mean, you could just take cues from AC2 and Brotherhood and just use the home world or new planet that you land on as a means of establishing a new order of some kind.
Well, yeah, I get that. I meant more a matter of, like, let me put it like this. If the idea is this is an unknown Jedi Order because there's somewhere that's uncharted, if you start killing stormtroopers, they're going to know that there's a Jedi around and start looking everywhere for you. And so
that's what the sequel is for, Lenny.
Okay, so we kill everyone in the first game, and then they come back for revenge in the second one. Okay, I get you.
I don't know. I just figured it was a small idea. I'm trying to think of some reason to like be a little bit more interested in this, because it may not be interesting to me as a timeline placement, but it would be interesting on a location setting. I was like, okay, you're a Padawan that survived the Inquisition of the Jedi Order, or the Jedi Purge, I should say, and you decide to hide out in the unknown regions. And I was like, okay, I'm always a big proponent of that because literally it's an unknown region.
Yeah, I think that could have a lot of potential.
But again, like you said, they probably won't do it just because it's a little too esoteric, and on my end, it's probably a little too creative.
It's a good idea. Thus, it'll never happen.
Yep. Not to say that games that have good ideas don't happen, but we'll say the likelihood of something with a great idea happening in the mainstream is very limited. I would say the best we can see, if I'm being completely honest, the best that we can see is a game that has an okay or mediocre idea executed very, very well. You know, like nothing that's super groundbreaking in regards to concept, but it's just executed as best as it can be. You know, like I would say that's the case with like the new God of War game. I'm not even trying to shit on it, but the idea of Kratos teaches his son how to be a man, it's not groundbreaking. We've had a ton of games where it's like, hey, I'm a father figure. Hey, I'm the kid figure. Like, so that's nothing new. But the fact that we all consider it to be, pretty well done and pretty well established within everything that's going on is something that I think is why people have resonated so well with it. Because it's not that everyone says this is original as much as people say this is good. You know what I mean?
It's a familiar idea, and we relate to it really well.
Yep. And so, not to say that we should discourage original ideas. Obviously, there's a lot of games with very good original ideas, and well, I'll be getting into that for the next conference specifically for certain segments. But yeah. So if I'm gonna say anything else about Star Wars, because I'm probably gonna wrap it up for me personally, I'm okay with them making another game because I think Respawn's gonna do a good job. But I'm gonna agree with Perry in that maybe stepping outside of the boundaries of these 3 movies. Or these 8 movies, considering the new movies. These 8 movies and the events in between is something that they might want to step out of just for the sake of not just overcrowding this space. Because it's like, hey, you can go anywhere in any direction. You can go 1,000 years in the future. You can go 1,000 years in the past. And then they're like, nope, we like this 10 or 15 or 20-year period right here. Thank you. So, yeah, that's all my thoughts on it. I'm glad they're adding more content to Battlefront 2, even though I stopped playing it like a week after launch, yeah, I hope it's a good game. What about you, Perry? Do you have concluding thoughts, I'll say, on this Star Wars news?
Hey, pick a different time frame, EA.
Love, Perry.
With best regards, love, Perry. P.S.
I want that to be a blurb. Like, I want that to be a blurb on the box where it's like, pick a different timeline, EA. Perry 2018 on the front of fucking Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh my goodness.
I would actually love to see that. Or here's the thing. Have a little PS on that little note and say, PS, give Obsidian and Chris Avellone rights to do KOTOR 3.
I agree.
Dreams.
Hey, a man can have them, all right?
Yeah. What about you, Jalen? Do you have closing thoughts on Star Wars?
I like Star Wars a lot, and I'm open to the game. I hope I see some interesting things in the future.
Cool. I agree. So, with that, we're going to be moving on, and this is, we'll say, the 2 good things that has come out of EA, all right? And I'm going to make a very small note because people may or may not notice this. I don't think our fan base will particularly care, but I guess there's like the 1% of our audience that actually does notice this or care about it. I'm not going to be bringing up any of the sports games. It's not that I hate the sports games. I don't hold any animosity towards Madden or FIFA players, but if I'm just being completely blunt, I have not played any of them outside of once or twice with friends back when I was like 10, and I don't think any of us care enough about sports games to have any notable commentary on them, so can we agree that we're just not going to be talking about, Madden or FIFA or anything like that?
I concur with that statement.
I second that statement.
Okay. With that in mind, we'll move on to the 2 good EA things, and that is specifically their indie games, or I'll say as close as indie games as you can get, and this is part of their creators program or their originals program, whatever you want to call it. They have announced a sequel to Unravel, that thing starring Yarny, which looks just fucking gorgeous, and it's so cute. They announced a sequel for that is actually already out, so now I have to play the original and get that one, so that'll be fun. It just looks good, and the main thing for me is I enjoyed the original press conference with Unravel because the creator seemed to have heart. Not that he was a great presenter, not that he was necessarily funny or that he seemed super talented, but his social awkwardness implied to me that he wasn't just another corporate face, he wasn't just an actor, he wasn't just another, he wasn't another brick in the wall for this fucking corporate structure. He seemed like a person. He had just enough of that, sort of, weirdness to him that he seemed like a person who was actually, dedicated to the integrity of his project, or at least that he had a vision going forward when he made this game. And that's way more fucking personality and humanity than the rest of EA was able to kind of push forward. So the fact that they have a second one out already is like fantastic. I'll buy that shit. Good thing. So to segue into the second good thing is they were talking about A Way Out, which is the first game they had as part of their Originals program, which is basically where they give an indie dev all the money and resources that EA usually has to kind of do whatever they want. They're given creative freedom to do everything, and they don't collect heavily on the profits of it. So they say. I don't know if that's exactly accurate, but fuck it, whatever. That's what they tell me. And it is Sea of Solitude for the new one, because A Way Out was very successful. So they're like, oh, people like original titles where we don't fucking ram down our business practices down their throat. So now you have this one where you play as a woman in this world where the lonelier you get, the more of a monster you become. And she's become a monster as a result of her loneliness, and she has to try and find a cure to this while navigating this sort of like sunken world where like the world is like flooded and there's like collapsed buildings and stuff, and you have a boat that can explore all these like underground and underwater places, and it's really, really fucking creepy and cool. And I'm gonna harken back to the thing I mentioned before. The creator of this one, this is from a German studio, Jome Games. She also seemed very passionate about it, because I'll say this game seems like a personal journey for her. Like, this didn't seem like this is a neat concept. Like, she seems like she's expressing her own emotional sort of journey through this game. And while that may rub some people the wrong way because of like self-insert stuff, I'm going to say that again, it's in such a juxtaposition to the very clinical corporate tones that we get from all the other EA stuff that I see it as kind of refreshing, at least in concept. I'll have to actually see how it plays personally before it comes out, but I think the concept looks very cool. And the person behind it seems very passionate about their work, and that is a very, very potent combination. Those are at least the initial thoughts I have on these two titles. What do you two, and Mighty, you can mention one or both or neither for Unravel 2 and Sea of Solitude. Let's start with you, Perry. What do you think of either of these titles?
For one thing, I'm surprised that Unravel actually got a sequel, but I'm happy for the creators. Like you said, first time when they had revealed Unravel, I was like, wow, we have an actual person here, someone who actually expresses passion, and I can respect that. So the fact they were able to make a sequel, it's like, you know what? I would like to give you a hug, because you actually managed to make a sincere game in amongst a corporate mess. So good on you. I'm happy for him. As for Sea of Solitude, I am very curious to see where this goes, because I know where you were mentioning that the lonelier the person gets, the more of a monster they become. I almost want to say, as sort of a smart-ass compliment, saying like, oh, so you're basically saying every gamer, considering that they are quote-unquote stereotypically a lonely bunch, they are by and large monsters.
Well, you know,
so, yeah.
The director did say that she wanted this to be a very relatable story, so I don't think that's much of a stretch.
Shots fired.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't intending for shots fired, but it almost feels like it was. Like, I couldn't feel the bullet hitting my head, but I could definitely hear the safety being turned off. I don't know. I'm just, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I will admit the aesthetic looked really nice. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Bound, just a tad. But I will admit I might just try this out when it comes. So who knows? It might work out.
I'd at least like to try a demo of it. You know, obviously I'd like to see what the full game is like before I kind of invest in it, but it's like, hey, if this is like an exploration kind of platformer with a very visually unique world, I could dig it. At least I like that stuff for it. Jalen, what are your thoughts on these titles?
Well, for starters, I'm glad Unraveled got a sequel. Like both of you, I remember when the I can't think of his name. You guys remember his name?
Um, let's see. I don't have his name listed on here, but we'll call him Mr. Yarny.
Uh, Mr. Yanni came up on stage, and I was like, "Damn, this dude! This is probably his first time in front of as many people that are at that conference at that moment in time, you know." And I'm like, hey, props to him for standing up there and just unloading his heart, because that's what he did. And I
Yeah.
was like, I respect that man. And I'm so glad that people responded to that respect and that the steps that he took to like get his game out there. And now it has a sequel. Like, that's a success story.
And it, like, seriously, I just want to give that guy a hug and take him out for a drink.
Exactly. And so, while I personally didn't play Unraveled, that's mostly because I'm bad at like saying I'm going to do this and then not doing it.
Well, truth be told, the past year or so, because I don't know if it came out 1 year ago or 2 years ago, but it's still fairly recent. Um, the past like year and a half or 2 years has been rather crowded with like really honestly, it had some pretty stellar games. You
Yeah,
know,
that's true.
I mean honestly, look at how much we've sunk into fucking Monster Hunter. All right, the game's been out for like what 4 months now, maybe 5.
Yeah, just about 4 or 5.
Yeah, how much have we sunk into that fucking game?
We're all past the 100 hour mark.
Yeah.
I think at least about, I would say almost 200 hours each.
Yeah, exactly. So now that's just one game. Now imagine all the other really cool games we've had come out over the past, year or year and a half. We've got God of War, and we have, I mean, I'd have to fucking look back. I'm honestly blanking out, but we all know how great this year has been lately for gaming. I mean, obviously there's going to be a few that haven't hit their stride, but we've been keeping ourselves busy, to say the very least. I mean, fucking even Dragon Ball Fighter Z, that took up like a good month of my time when that first came out.
Yeah, seriously. Jeez, man.
Right. So I don't blame any of us for missing out on this title, but now that there's a second one, I'm gonna say if there's a bundle that has both of them, I'd be more than happy to pick it up, because even if I don't play it right away, I do like to support the developers, because that's actually what I did for Kingdom Come Deliverance. All right, I liked the game and on a conceptual level, and so even though I really didn't have the time to play it because of work and playing Monster Hunter with you guys, I bought it anyways, because even if I didn't want to play it right away, I still wanted to support that kind of philosophy in game development. So if I have the time or the money, I definitely would want to pick up a like dual pack featuring Unravel 1 and 2 and just support the developer, because I think he deserves it.
Good man.
Yeah. So, and do you have any thoughts on Sea of Solitude before we move on?
I'm actually looking forward to it. I'm probably gonna check out some gameplay before I'm like, yeah, thumbs up, 2 thumbs up, gonna buy it. But I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. Well then, I'm glad we went over the two good things that happened at EA, because it's all downhill from here.
Oh, is it ever?
Okay, I'll tell you what. You know what? Fuck it. I want this to be a gradual decline, so I'm gonna skip a little bit ahead to the end of the conference, because this wasn't necessarily bad as much as some people are skeptical. They showed off more gameplay for Anthem, in which they showed off 2 more classes, and they announced a release date of February of next year. And in addition to that, I should mention, they also have gameplay details, sparse ones. We'll say that they mentioned that outside of the hub world, it is like a multiplayer experience, and that's where you do your fighting, and that's where you have your friends. But then when you're in the hub, it's like single player and story focused. And then they mentioned like, oh, there's a bunch of color options and customizations for you. I didn't notice them say anything about weapons or about classes or anything else, and my concern is about the longevity of gameplay when it comes to like what you're actually doing, because they haven't actually mentioned what your goal is gameplay wise. Because I assume it's fight the thing and then come back, but I'd like to know how progression works, how rewards work, what kind of stuff you're going to be able to do for it. And I think that's important for the longevity of the game, because if you don't know what you're doing, we're going to have the same problem we had with No Man's Sky, where you list all these things that you can do, but then you get to the why should you do it, or what's the benefit of doing it. And this is especially relevant because a lot of people, and this is something I share too now that I've heard their arguments, a lot of people are worried that Anthem is going to bomb hard fucking core. They're worried that EA is going to rush it out the door without being able to keep up with the performance and graphics of it, while also having huge promises of like gameplay and everything else, and then falling flat on its face. And they're especially worried about this because this game looks expensive. I mean, you guys have seen the production value. This game is huge, and it's very pretty, and if this thing is going to be able to actually perform on anything very well, it's going to be optimized like fucking inside and out. And so people are worried that's going to be poorly optimized and be lacking in content and the promises that it had. The reason why they're worried about this is not because they necessarily care about Anthem, but because they care about BioWare. And if this bombs, there's actually a very distinct real problem, or a distinctly real issue present, where EA could literally axe BioWare because of this and Andromeda. You know, because we know Andromeda really did poorly. If this also does poorly after they sunk way more money and time into it, it could literally be the end of BioWare as we know it.
God damn it.
You know what? At this point, I would not be surprised if that's the history that plays out, given EA's track record with killing studios.
Yeah, they've done so much to kill different studios before. It wouldn't be surprising if they did. It would be tragic if they did, especially because of what people like with the past that they have with BioWare. So I hope that isn't the case, because I want to succeed. I'm going to level with you. I think it looks very cool. I think that roaming around in like Iron Man suits in like a Destiny-style game is really interesting. Well, not, we'll say novel, of course. You know, it's basically, hey, here's Destiny, but with Iron Man suits and with the plot of like, I don't know, fucking Attack on Titan. I even saw inspirations from 9. It's just like, we're in a safe place. Everything outside of it is bad. Fight the thing. You know, we've seen this story like 3 or 4 times with a million different mediums. So it's not to say that I think it's necessarily novel. It's going to be groundbreaking as much as I just like, here's a competently made game with a pretty good amount of production value and polish. I'm just worried they're not going to be able to deliver on that, and then we lose BioWare, because BioWare can make some pretty cool things. People love the Mass Effect games, people like the Dragon Age games, kinda. You know, obviously we love them from all their previous stuff, especially, you know, Perry, I know you and I like the KOTOR games.
So I fucking love KOTOR 1, you know that.
Oh, absolutely. So with that in mind, it's like, it would be a shame if any of that were to kind of, you know, go away from them. And especially because I've seen weird things with the way their staffing goes. Dragon Age Inquisition was their latest Dragon Age game that they did from like the main studio. And all of the writers for that one, like the ones who actually wrote the story for that one, are no longer with the company. Meaning that if they ever do another Dragon Age game after, you know, Anthem or whatever, the issue we're going to have is that none of the people who are responsible for the previous stories are going to be in charge of the new story. And this is relevant because basically you might have a problem with like the through line of thematic elements or character elements or plot elements, especially because they had a huge cliffhanger at the end of Dragon Age Inquisition. I won't say what it is because spoilers, but it's going to be hard to resolve a cliffhanger in a necessarily satisfying way if the people who knew how the plot was going to continue aren't working for your company anymore. So that concerns me. the hype for this concerns me. EA concerns me. And so I've seen it. I've seen people say, I'm posting this here. Check back in a year. BioWare's going to get shut down. And I hope that's not the case. But, you know, if I were a betting man, I wouldn't chastise other betting men for saying that BioWare's fucks.
I don't want to say that BioWare is screwed, but I'm going to preemptively get my liquor ready just in case.
Yep.
They're on the edge of the cliff, and literally EA is like, okay, do a funny dance. If it's not funny enough, I'm going to push you.
Exactly.
No. What it's going to do is that we're going to hold a gun to your head while you do the funny dance, and if you don't happen to entertain me enough, then I will shoot you, which will then cause you to fall off the cliff.
Right.
And also, I will broadcast it live to the world.
Yep. And it's interesting to see all this play, because I thought the gameplay looked pretty good. You know, because I don't think people are necessarily going to be dissatisfied inherently with the concept behind the gameplay, because it's like, here's some shooty bits and some robots. It's like, there you go, but it needs more than that, because at that point, it's just like, why not just play any other shooter ever? So, hopefully it delivers, but that aside, do you have any other thoughts on Anthem before we get to the big one?
Well, for Anthem, I would say that one small thing to the dev team: turn down the combo orgy. Okay? Seriously, I couldn't tell what the crap was going on screen because those combos were just screwing each other to the point where they were like rabbits.
Fair enough. Jalen.
I thought it looked nice. I'm not particularly interested in it, you know, but it looked good.
Yeah, I agree. I think it has a lot of polish and production behind it, which I hope is not to its downfall. With that, though, let's get into the elephant of the room for the EAA conference. This is why I said I wanted this to be a gradual decline. This is probably the talk of the town when it comes to this whole thing, when it comes to like this particular game being an issue. Command and Conquer Rivals.
Oh.
I'll tell you what, Perry, you have a little more experience with this than I do. Why don't you take the floor for this one?
Okay, so just for context, so that way I don't go completely off the rails just yet, I am a little bit of a Command & Conquer fan. It was one of my first RTSs that I ever really learned how to play, specifically Tiberian Sun. And I thought it was cool as shit. I thought it was like, oh my god, there's all these different units. I can make whatever army I want. I can basically play as two different factions. I had freaking Kane as one of my first villains that I ever really recognized in a video game. And I was like, this dude is awesome. I didn't even think the voice acting or any of the acting was really hammy as crap. I mean, later I started realizing that, but I just thought it was some cool stuff. Then I played almost every other Command & Conquer game that came out after that, made by the original Westwood Studios team, namely Red Alert and Red Alert 2, as well as Red Alert 3, which, granted, that wasn't made originally by Westwood, but you get the point. And also Command & Conquer 3 Tiberian Wars, which is probably tied with Red Alert 3 as my favorite iteration of the series. And I enjoy the concept and the gameplay overall, mostly because there's some stuff that is really cool in terms of units and factions. Like, I love how GDI interacts. I love how NOD works. I love the Skrin. I thought they were really cool. In terms of the Red Alert series, I love how goofy it gets. I mean, you've had in the last Red Alert game, you had freaking J.K. Simmons as the president, Tim Curry as the Russian premier, and George Takei as the Emperor of Japan. How do you say that to someone as a basis for a story and not have them say, I immediately want to play this?
They are a crazy human.
Right.
It's just, I don't understand how anyone could not enjoy a Command & Conquer game, at least in some capacity, or at least see why others like it. So, and I also want to address the other elephant in the room. Command & Conquer 4. We don't talk about Command and Conquer 4. So, moving on to Rivals. Oh.
We don't talk about it either, right?
No, I'm going to have to talk about this because this felt like a brass knuckle punch to the balls for me when I heard about this. Because this is not Command and Conquer. This is a necrophiled corpse, basically puppeteered on a string, wearing a Command and Conquer t-shirt that died out 5 years ago, and is parading around, carrying a phone and saying, I can still make games, I'm still here, and having EA pulling the freaking strings and saying that, oh, look, we still care about this series, even though you literally killed the studio that created it in the first place. So, yeah, I'm a little salty that this exists at all. And I'm not the only one who is, because as far as I can tell from other YouTubers who were streaming this the conference as it was going on, other Command and Conquer fans were posting in the chat how pissed they were about this. So I know I'm not alone. And it just makes me furious about how you took a franchise that was once the rival of StarCraft as the real-time strategy gaming king. In fact, arguably the originator of this real-time strategy genre, the studio who created the real-time strategy genre with Dune 2 and then perfected it with Command & Conquer. You just keep beating this dead horse over and over again, and it just makes me realize, like, EA, stop it. We know you don't care about this series anymore. You know that you cannot make a good Command and Conquer game. Now, I'm just saying EA is a publisher. I'm not even talking about the developers. I'm pretty sure they probably had just a contractual obligation to do this, so I'm not going to throw any shade at them. I am just really, really sad at the fact that the Command and Conquer brand has devolved into this. And it just makes me want to actually take the franchise away from EA. Like, I want to. It's almost as if, I guess the best way I can describe it is as if Moses was being surrounded in the Nile by crocodiles and you just want to save the baby from the river being eaten. And I was just like, nope, I don't even care if this is keeping to the original story. I know this is supposed to how it's going, but it's not going to happen. So, yeah, I just want to take the Command & Conquer franchise away from EA and just rebuild it or reboot it completely and say, okay, we're going to actually make a proper Command & Conquer game. We're going to make it good. We're going to get all the cool stuff that you actually like. We're going to do the Tiberium stuff, and we're going to like give it a full-on makeover just so that way we can do it right. So, yeah, I should have figured this was going to happen eventually at some point, considering that they killed the Tiberium first-person shooter game, which I'm still a little bit mad over back in my head and the really dark recesses of my mind, remembering that was a thing. Command & Conquer Force ending rubbed salt in the wound to the point where I was just like, well, that's going to leave a scar. And now this. Like, you just can't help but beat the dead horse. In fact, might as well make it a full stable. Here's a stable full of dead horses. If you want me to shoot the horses for you, here you go. Go ahead and beat it. Might as well kill an entire Kentucky Derby's worth of horses if you're going to do this. So, yeah, I'm a little annoyed this exists. Because you basically just devolved Command & Conquer into what looks like a lame mobile one-on-one real-time strategy king of the hill type game. That is not Command & Conquer. That is a corpse with a Command & Conquer shirt on it. So yeah, that pretty much sums up my thoughts there.
Cool. And I'm going to lend some credence to your notion that other people are upset with this. I just looked at the official reveal trailer on EA's YouTube page. The number of views is just about 500,000, for context, alright? Number of likes is 1.7 thousand. That's not necessarily bad. But the number of dislikes is 40,000. That's literally a 40-to-1 ratio of dislikes to likes. Holy shit.
God damn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is like. I mean, I'm looking at this. Like I'm not kidding. This looks like a fucking. I mean, This pertains back to Star Wars. This looks like a super fucking long gray lightsaber with a little blue hilt that you hold on to.
It's a lightsaber with erectile dysfunction.
Oh god, it's so fucking weird. It's and I understand why people are upset. And here's the thing. I don't think that people are necessarily upset with the concept of a mobile iteration of the Command and Conquer license. That in and of itself, I think, is, we'll say, innocuous enough. I think the primary reason that people are upset is that we haven't had an official title in years that is worth a damn, or any at all for that matter. And thus, the issue that we have is, at least the implication is, you have forgone funding and approving an official title in the mainstream line of the games for a free-to-play mobile game that is basically a ripoff of Clash of Clans. And at that point, it's like, it's the same thing with like Konami and the pachinko parlors when it comes to like, oh, we're not gonna make, Metal Gear Solid 6. We're not going to make Silent Hills, but we'll make pachinko parlors about Metal Gear Solid 3. It's like, it's not that it's bad in isolation. It's bad when you don't actually contribute to the main series.
Indeed.
So that's literally all my thoughts on it, because, like, of what I've played of Command & Conquer, which is literally, I think it was, like, Red Alert 3 or something that I think that Perry introduced me to, I had fun. It looked good. It looked like it had a lot of depth and nuance and charm to it, and I didn't have the time to get more into it, but I did not dislike a single bit of it from what I played. And so bringing it down to this level is like, because I literally think they just wanted a Clash of Clans game, and then they're like, oh, hey, we have this game that's kind of able to be worked into it somehow, but not at all really, but it'll have a name on it, so it'll sell more copies. Let's do it, because I literally think they had a game like this that has nothing to do with the franchise, and then they just tacked on the name because they wanted it to sell more copies, or to get it in more people's phones, and that's why it's such an affront, because it has nothing to do with Command & Conquer, and there's like, oh, but we have this license, let's put its title on here.
Yeah, and to kind of add to your point a little bit, I actually just looked up the timeline of the Command & Conquer releases. Do you know when the last good Command & Conquer game actually came out, and that being Red Alert 3?
I'm going to say, 2008 or 2009.
You would be correct. Command & Conquer 3, Red Alert 3, came out in 2008.
Look at that. Good job, Jalen.
Thank you.
So, with that in context, Command & Conquer 4 came out in 2010, and we don't talk about that one. And so, what this means is that we have not had a good Command & Conquer game in a decade.
Hey, that sounds familiar to a couple other franchises.
Yep.
So, yeah, I would almost say we haven't had, well, okay, I was going to say something along the lines of, like, it's basically we're in the same booth as the Darkstalker fan base waiting for another game in the series that's worth a damn. But that almost feels like, you know what, that's probably not even a fair comparison considering Darkstalkers fans have waited for much longer.
Agreed.
So, but either way, just the fact that it makes me sad, I had to go back and look. It's like, when was the last time we actually got a good game release? Oh yeah, 2008. So yeah, 10 years it's been since we got a last good one.
It's sad. But
and what's even more sad is that, considering the death of the original studio Westwood, that they basically, with their last title with Renegade, that was in 2002. So keep that in mind. It's been 16 years since that death. And it's devolved into this.
I mean, they're
Truly sad.
It's it's fucking sad to see this, and I'll tell you what. I actually have a comparison for a little bit later that I'll be able to discuss about this, but I'll say this. This is how you don't do it. This specifically is how you do not handle this situation, and they did the exact thing that they should not have done. And this is why I have such a weird thing with EA, because EA occasionally does stuff that I like. I'm like, good job, EA. You're not as much of a fuck up, but it's like I don't know, it's like they're like the fuck up of all the other people in the games industry. So anytime they do something even remotely good, we tend to be like, hooray, yay, they did it. They didn't fuck it up. And I'd like to encourage them to not fuck up anymore, but they just keep doing these really bad things. I'm like, why? Why do you keep doing this? But that's all I have for Command and Conquer. Jalen, do you have any closing thoughts for that particular Command and Conquer Rivals?
I think Perry summed it up very nicely.
Yes, I think he did a fantastic job. Perry, do you have a closing word on that?
Where's my damn vodka?
That's a good way to end that segment. So that was EA's conference as a whole. Also sports, and this is something I was going to mention, all right? The fucking hostess. You could not have picked a more bland, cookie cutter, corporate, definitely paid actor, uncharismatic person if you tried. I could not fucking stand the hostess, alright? She seemed to try so hard to be, a gamer girl. Hey guys, I'm funny, I like video games, right, I'm in the gaming community. It's not to say that, because that's the thing, I don't care whether or not you're, a guy or a girl. It's just, if you try too hard to seem like you're fitting in when you just don't seem to, because, like I said, she seems like she'd be more fitting to be in, a fucking glamour magazine, and not, in a gaming thing. It's not to say, oh, hey, you can't enjoy games because you're pretty. It's just, she just didn't feel like she fit in. And I'm gonna directly compare that to the director, for the game Sea of Solitude. She seemed, literally, the first part of her segment was her laughing and kind of, breaking out of her initially suggested speech because she was nervous. She literally was, laughing, and she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so nervous, that's a human being. That's a fucking human person who's not just a fucking Hollywood socialite walking around being super fucking attractive, oh yeah, I'm a gamer now, right? It's how you do it. It's not to say that you require social anxiety to be a gamer, but those traits help me to kind of realize the faults in this person. It's a relatable thing, because, I'm sure we've all had that sort of, stage anxiety, right? Those moments where you're taken aback by people who are, in front of you, and you're proud of this moment and shit. That's something that's highly relatable. And this other chick kept trying to make jokes, because she's like, oh, I'm funny, I'm a gamer, and it was... I don't like to use the word cringy, and I don't think that applies to this here. It just felt like I was, I don't know, we'll say tricked or bamboozled.
Forced?
Yeah, forced. I could feel the wool being pulled over my eyes in regards to this. I'm like, no, I don't consider you to be a good advocate for gamers in general, because you don't seem like one of us. You seem like a presenter, not a gamer. And I feel that way about a lot of people. It's not exclusive to her, but I'd say it's one of many people who don't feel like they're passionate about the industry as much as they're just paid a check to stand and look pretty and say words on a stage. And every time she was around, I was like, please, literally anyone else. I would, this is why I want, the director of Sea of Solitude, and especially, what is it, Daniel something or other, I forget, whoever the director of A Way Out is, I want him to host everything ever. He is the fucking Tommy Wiseau of gaming. He is a fucking living meme, and I want him in everything from now on. Because I don't know if you remember his performance from the Game Awards, but he was quite a interesting man, to say the least.
The man definitely had some stuff to say that needed to be said.
Right. So, but with that in mind, EA's conference, I enjoyed the two things. The rest of it was either mediocre or actually bad. I initially actually recorded my responses to this. I'm gonna be a little harsh because of the things I don't like about it. I'm gonna give it like between a 5 and a 4 if I had to rate it out of 10 for EA's conference. The good is good, but the bad is pretty bad, and the mediocre is definitely not helping things. That's my thoughts. Let's start with you, Jalen. If you had to rate EA's conference on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give it?
All right, I'm gonna give it my passed it score of 4.
Okay. Good. I'm glad we're on the same page as that. Perry, what would you say if you had to rate EA?
I would give it a busted testicle out of 10.
I appreciate descriptive. Good to know.
Damn, Perry, holy
God
shit!
Oh god. All right.
I'm not going to. It was kind of hard for me to say that with a straight face.
All right. We are moving on. All right. So, we are now at the Microsoft conference. I'm going to say as a preemptive thing, all right? To those of you who are unfamiliar with my work, I am an admitted Sony fanboy, all right? I like their games, I like their system. I tend to prefer their content over that of other publishers and other stuff, whether it be Xbox or Nintendo or PC. I just like them. And I want you to be aware of my biases going into this, because I do not have any hyperbole or an exaggeration when I say that Microsoft did really good this year. Like, they did a stellar job. I personally think it was fantastic. And that's coming from a fanboy who explicitly does not like the Xbox lineup of consoles and doesn't like their games in general, from just a personal point of view. So the fact that I'm giving them these kind of praise is something that I think you should take note of if you aren't already aware of these kind of thoughts. With that in mind, we're going to start with their first thing, and I'm going to say just in general, they discussed 50 different games. Now, some of them they discussed more than others, but it is a factual thing that they discussed 50 games, and it was just game. And outside of one instance where they were really boring by talking about their Game Pass, they just kept talking about video games. And that is the magic of E3. We're not talking about TV. We're not talking about fucking sports. We're not talking about your cable box. We're not talking about original fucking programming through Netflix or whatever. We're talking about video games. Even if it's just a trailer without any gameplay, that is what we are here for. We are here to watch demonstrations of the games that we are excited for, whether we knew they were coming or not. And with that in mind, we're going to start with the very first game from the Microsoft conference, and that is going to be Halo Infinite. And we have no information on this. We have no idea if it's going to be the next line in the series. We have no idea if it's going to be a spin-off or anything else. It's just, here is another Halo game. That is literally all we know. So I imagine this is going to be a very short segment. Do you guys have anything to comment on the Halo Infinite trailer?
Okay, I have all the insider details.
Cool.
It's going to star Halo characters and Marvel characters, but the Halo characters aren't going to look as good as the Marvel characters. And then they're going to have poor choices of Halo characters and poor choices of Marvel characters. And then when the game comes out in about 2 years from now in September, it's not going to do well.
God damn it, you stole my joke.
Jalen, the setups are fantastic.
Thank you. But seriously, holy shit, people were happy just to see Master Chief's helmet again.
Yeah, he really does have a legacy like that, doesn't he?
Yeah, you know what? I'm happy for those people. I don't particularly care about Halo, but other people do. And I'm glad people are getting what they want. Supposedly. We haven't seen anything about the game yet.
Mm-hmm.
I will admit, I was one of those people that was a little bit happy to see Master Chief again, just because it's like, oh yay, new Halo game. Hopefully, this doesn't suck like the last one. Apparently,
Mm-hmm. I agree. I've
and this is coming from someone who actually has played almost every other entry in the series. Like, I'm not even kidding. Looking back on it, it's like, oh yeah, that's right. I did play 1 through 3. I played ODST. Reach was awesome. I liked Halo Wars. I've yet to play Halo Wars 2, but I've heard it's really good. So yeah, I kind of like the series. I don't hate it like some people do. I just feel it's more like, well, it's harmless. It's a perfectly harmless game. And I thought, well, it could be nice to see Master Chief again and actually have a story focused around him and not some fan fiction character from DeviantArt that just happened to get a budget.
You know, that was actually something I was hearing when I was hearing people discuss Halo. Some people have thought that the visual aesthetic of the newer Halo games is kind of unintuitive for the gameplay, meaning the design of the environments is so overly detailed that it's hard to actually have a clear idea of what you're supposed to be shooting at and what you're supposed to be doing. Whereas the previous games had very, very clear ideas of what you were supposed to shoot and where you're supposed to go. Kind of like, I think they said that's an example of why they had the like the Elite or the Covenant or whatever you call the enemies in the Halo games. They said that's the reason why they had all the sort of like multicolored armor in all those games, because they needed a good way for them to stand out from the more earthen tones of the environment, and it allowed for a really good flow of gameplay because you knew exactly what you had to shoot, and they were, they were moving, they were clear, they were bright, and the contrast allowed it for really good gameplay flow. And nowadays, the sort of, I don't want to say photorealism, but the closer adherence to photorealistic art design has made it so they tend to blend into the environment in a way that doesn't seem intentional. Like, it's not like they're literally wearing camouflage. It's just that everything seems to bear the same kind of texture work, and so it can be really hard to differentiate as to what's actually going on screen, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I've seen that opinion brought up before, and by video game donkey, no less. To be fair, though, he does bring up good points in a very hilarious way.
Yeah, he is hyperbolic, but he does tend to get fairly good on the money when it comes to that. But that aside, all those criticisms aside of the more recent Halo games, I'm eager to see what happens. I'm gonna level with you, because the fact that they had like 8 or 12 different like Xboxes connected to TVs out on the show floor, I was convinced that Xbox or Halo Infinite was gonna be a battle royale Halo game, and I thought they were gonna demonstrate it on stage. And I mean, I thought that's what it was, because I'm like, Infinite, oh, so there's a lot of players, because Infinite means more, or like a lot, and like, oh, so it's gonna be like a super massive multiplayer thing. And
See, that would have been a great idea, because then they could have had Master Chief mode where all the players are just Master Chief.
yep.
Oh dear God, that literally just sent shivers up my spine thinking about that. I'm not even joking right now. I literally just had a shiver go up me. I was just like, please no.
Or you could have it similar to, like, I mean, I hate to bring up this shit because I literally cringe when I think about fucking Fortnite, but you could have it similar to the Thanos mode in Fortnite, where one person becomes Master Chief and everyone else is just a regular old grunt, and then they have to like try and fight against this super powerful dude. But but we'll see. Either way, I am not a fan of Halo at all. I don't hate Halo anymore. I used to. If I'm going to be completely blunt, I used to hate Halo, and that's only because of my friends. I mean, I think I've discussed this story before, but in short, my friends used to play it all the time. They would get into hissy fits when one person would lose when we're playing like local multiplayer, and they'd get in arguments, and I just hated my friends arguing, so I blamed it on the games rather than my friends being complete total fucking assholes to each other. So I don't think the games themselves actually have enough problems to warrant my previously founded hatred for it. I think it's literally just that I had a very, very bad experience in regards to introducing myself to the series. So, given the opportunity, I'd like to actually play through the whole series and see why people like it so much. And maybe Halo Infinite is another opportunity to do that now that they're starting to bring all their titles to PC.
That actually does make me a little bit excited at the idea of Halo being on PC. It's just like, oh, thank goodness, I don't actually have to buy another console just to play this.
Yeah. And
The
I'll
glory of
say
PC.
Glory PC, and I'll say the one thing. As much as I praise Microsoft for focusing mostly on games during this conference, I gave it, if I had to rate it, and mind you, this is a little preemptive, but I figure it's relevant to the specific subjects, right? I'd give it a 9 out of 10, and the only reason it's not a 10 out of 10 is because none of these games are exclusive. Not a single one requires me to buy an Xbox in order to get it, alright? All of it is available on PC or on Steam or whatever, what have you. They're all available on PC. I don't need to buy an Xbox. I already have a very powerful PC. I don't need to do a single thing to actually purchase their hardware in order to enjoy every single game of theirs, all 50 of them that we're going to discuss. So, that is why I say it's sort of like I don't know, that is their Achilles heel. For reasons beyond my comprehension. Not because I think it's necessarily a bad business choice, but I think it's like a bad, it is a bad decision as a hardware manufacturer, if that makes sense. This is alluding to my previous notion that I really do think that they're going to kind of push towards being a publisher and a service provider. You know, because we'll get into this, but an announcement they made later in the show is that they had acquired several indie studios that were previously making games either multi-platform or for other platforms, and now they're like, oh, well, now we will provide funding and resources for you. And that, combined with their Xbox Games Pass, implies to me that they're toning down hardware. Because they mentioned they have plans for hardware in the future, but honestly, I think whatever their next one is going to be their swan song. Like, whatever their next one is after this is going to be like, that's the last one we're making, we don't have any more announcements, we're just going to make games for PC, and we'll just let fucking Sony and Nintendo hash it out. You know, because PC market is, despite what people would think intuitively, it actually is growing by a fair amount. So, we'll see how it goes, but my thought is that, if I'm going to tie this all to Halo coming to PC is great. I just think that the amount of things coming to PC in general worries me for the sake of Xbox surviving as a console. Because at this point, it might just become a brand name for whatever Microsoft decides to publish on the other brands of things. Because who knows? You might even have Xbox be a publisher on other consoles. Imagine fucking Halo 8, an Xbox game, available on PS4, developed by 343 Studios.
That's some heresy you talking right there.
That would be bizarro to see.
It would be, but I just want you to notice the kind of trend that they're having with these kind of things. It sounds very weird, but I wouldn't put it past the realm of possibility.
Like, Lenny, look over your shoulder and make sure the green hoods aren't there to take you away.
Oh, God.
Right, no, it's not going to be a green hood, Jalen. Remember, they were all wearing white in the conferences, so just make sure they're all wearing a white t-shirt. Seriously, did nobody else notice this?
Nah, I noticed. It's they tend to have that sort of like shared look among the people when they have like all their I don't know what they said on them this year. I just remember last year they all wore a shirt that said, "I witnessed the unveiling of the most powerful console ever." Yeah, that was last year for the
Oh shit, yeah, that was right.
Project Scorpio.
I was almost terrified they were going to turn into a hive mind and said, "We are Xbox. We are Xbox."
Right.
You know, the Xbone X should have been called the Scorpio. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's a cooler name. Although I get why they're doing that, just because I guess they simultaneously made it confusing, but also didn't want to confuse people because the Xbox One X, when you put it as an anagram, is Xbox.
Fucking goddamn, that pissed me off.
But
I still call it XBX in my head.
I still call it Xbone.
Because why the heck not?
Yep.
To be fair, when I'm being specific, I will say the X.
Mm-hmm. But that aside, moving on from that, they showed off more stuff of Battlefield 5, but we talked about that already. So, we're going to move on down to Crackdown 3.
AKA Terry Crews' daily life.
Yes. if this was Xbox One exclusive, I would purchase an Xbox One. I love this game as a concept. I love Terry Crews. The gameplay looked fun. It looked energetic. It looked interesting. I mean, I literally have nothing else to say about this. It reminds me of like Prototype, just an example. It just looks like balls to the walls, super awesome fun, like crazy shit. It reminds me of like Saints Row 2 and 3, where they found that really kind of wacky balance, and it has shades of like Ratchet and Clank with like the kind of insane weapons with it, but
You have a gun that shoots rubber ducks.
yeah, exactly. And it reminds me of like the Sheepinator, obviously different weapons, but I thought it looked like a very fun game. They didn't reveal a ton, but I hope Terry Crews is like a main character or a major factor in the story. I hope he's not just like a cameo or a marketing gimmick, because if he isn't heavily involved in this game, I'm going to be severely disappointed.
Yeah, I can completely agree to this statement, and I will say this to the developers: if you do not include an Old Spice promotion in this game as DLC, I will be severely disappointed.
Just Old Spice everywhere in the game. Like, not even where it should logically be. You go into the like some jungle and it's like an Old Spice advertisement.
Just you know what? Screw it. Just give the cops in the game. Just give the cops in the game an Old Spice uniform and have them do a crossover with Pepsi Man and punch him in the face.
Every bathroom you go to, there's an Old Spice.
And it turns out that Terry Crews was secretly just a giant can of Old Spice this entire time.
Oh my god!
And his gun shoot Old Spice.
Oh my god!
I mean, fuck, if Alan Wake can get away with all of its fucking Verizon product placements, I don't see why Old Spice couldn't do it with this game.
And it'd be way more hilarious in this case.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what would be hilarious? If you order a product of just anything Old Spice related during the month of Crackdown's release, you get a free download copy of Crackdown.
Yep.
That'd be
amazing. I'd like to play the first two games, honestly, because I've never played them, but I've heard really good things.
I heard the first one was good, considering that everyone said it's like, oh look, I paid $60 for a Halo 3 beta key, and it came with a free game. Oh wait, the game's actually good.
Hooray!
And then Crackdown 2 came out. And then Crackdown 2 came out, and apparently no one cared.
Damn.
Yep. But yeah. Do you guys have any other thoughts on Crackdown before we move on?
Bad crazy wacky guns.
Yep. Very good. All right. Next up on the chopping block, and this will be one that I'm gonna probably have you take the reins for.
Hold on. Lenny, I'm sorry, Jalen. I didn't mean to cut you off for Crackdown. Please say your piece.
No. All I said was, I'm good.
Cool. With that in mind, Perry, I might want you to take the reins on this one a bit more. The next one they announced was a reveal trailer for Cyberpunk 2077.
No, wait, that was at the end of the show, man.
Yep. I'm kind of just going in the order that I have here on the website here.
Okay then. Well, oh god, that was so good. I could not express. There is no meme in existence that has a smile big enough on it to express my happiness seeing that trailer. I think my favorite part was not just the trailer itself, which itself looks amazing, but the theatric of the whole thing, which was the Microsoft aspect of the conference. Like, it was wrapping up. It was like, okay, it was good. It's a nice, solid conference. And then all of a sudden, the whole thing started to get hacked. And I'm just kind of thinking, okay, what the heck is going on? And as soon as I saw the whole Cyberpunk CD Projekt Red, I thought, oh my God, CD Projekt Red just hacked Microsoft. They pulled a Sony one more thing. This is awesome. And as soon as the song kicked in, I was just like, I'm done. I'm happy. I am so happy. This could not be any cooler for me. And what was even better was that it was actual in-game footage. Oh, like I could not be more giddy if I even tried. Just seeing Cyberpunk as being a thing, it's going to be an actual game. And apparently, I looked at a little bit more into the game's information that was leaked over the last couple of days. Is apparently there's actually going to be full from nudity and one night stands. Is apparently a hybrid of Blade Runner and The Witcher. I'm just like, can you please just make this game come out already? I'm so happy. Just the thought of it makes me smile.
Do you need a pack of cigarettes?
No, I don't. I just need to frolic in a field of flowers, carrying it in my arms like it's a bride at a wedding. I wanted to have sweet, sweet love and make children with it. So yeah, kind of like what Lenny said with Titanfall 2, is like, I want this game to have my children. I want Cyberpunk 2077 to have my children. It's like, thank you, you brilliant bastards in Warsaw, Poland, for this, because this is amazing looking.
Right.
It also makes me kind of speculative in terms of what the other files were for the rest of for Cyberpunk, because I noticed there was one that said, I think, final trailer, which makes me wonder, is like, oh, how far along in development is this? Like, is it getting close? Does that mean we could possibly see it next year?
I'm guessing that was just alluding to the fact that those are the future steps in the process, not necessarily that they have them ready yet.
True. It just seemed to be something worth noting as I was watching it. So
right.
Either way, I was happy the fact that it was even acknowledged and showed up at all. And it was a heck of a way to end off a conference, just out of nowhere. Because that to me seems like a stunt that Sony would pull off. You know how they always say is like, oh, we just have one more thing to show you, or they're wrapping up their conference. Mm-hmm. That's something that they would do.
Yep.
So, in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft basically looked at Sony's conferences on average and say, okay, how do we emulate this the best? And then we say, oh, wait, we need a one more thing moment. Hey, guys, CD Projekt Red, can you make it look like you're hacking our conference to show off Cyberpunk? Yeah, sure, let's cook up something. And one day later, it's like, boom, ready to go.
Yeah. No, I agree. I do think they are trying to kind of focus on each other from like a competition standpoint, and I haven't, to be told, I've never actually like played any CD Projekt Red game. I've wanted to play the first Witcher game just because I want to play that, so I can play the second one, so I can play the third one. And this one looks pretty good as well. I'd like to see a little bit more gameplay before I heavily sink my teeth into it, but if their previous track record is anything to go by, I'd be enthusiastic to say the least, and that's honestly all I have to say. I do enjoy the presentation they had. I mean, honestly, I think Perry, you summed it up very nicely. So that would be my piece about this particular one. Jalen, what are your words on this?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting Cyberpunk to be at E3 at all. It's kind of like Final Fantasy VII Remake to me at this point, where like, if I see it, I'm happy. If I don't, oh well. And I've been on board ever since it was first announced. I love me some Cyberpunk. And yeah, like, damn.
Cool.
As of right now, it's got 2 thumbs up from me.
Sweet. With that in mind, do we have anything else to say before we move on to the next part?
No, I'm pretty satisfied with what I saw. So yeah, Cyberpunk 2077, it's a thing. Thank you, Microsoft, for showing it off.
Excellent. Exactly. Well, let's transition from one good thing to another good thing. Devil May Cry 5 was announced. I'll tell you what, Jalen, I think you definitely have I'd say definitely the clearest history with the Devil May Cry games as far as I know. I mean, Perry also does, but Perry, not to demark you because you've been doing a fantastic job, but we've had you take the floor with 2 significant sections at this point, so I want to see if Jalen has something significant to say about this, and then you can have your turn, and then I have my turn as well. But let's have Jalen start off with Devil May Cry 5.
Yeah, sure. Go right ahead.
Okay. So I didn't catch Microsoft live because I was working that day. So whenever I took a break, I was catching up. And so when I looked and it was like Devil May Cry 5, I was like, oh my God, are you serious? And I play the trailer and I'm just like, oh my goodness, this game looks crazy. And then when you get to the shot of new haircut Nero and you get the van and you Devil May Cry, and I'm like, oh my goodness. 2 years ever since Ruben Langdon did that goddamn tweet of him and Johnny Young Bosch in mocap suits. And he was like, look forward to something in the future. All that waiting leads to this. And it's just like, just yes. Yes, like it's hard to contain my excitement while I'm just sitting in a bench while people are walking past me and I'm trying to not look like an idiot. And everything in that trailer was just like, man, this is Devil May Cry. It may look a bit different, but when you really look and listen, it's Devil May Cry. And I said, no matter what Devil May Cry 5 looks like, if it was going to be there at E3, I would be happy that it even exists at all. And I was, but I'm even more excited because it's familiar, yet it's still something different and modern for newer people, for new fans to get into the game. And I feel like that's the best compromise the team could have done.
Excellent. Good to hear from that, Jalen. All right, Perry. I know you. I know you have got words for this as well. Why don't you take the floor on this next one?
My boy is back, bitches. Oh, I'm so happy Nero's back. I mean, great. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for Dante being back in his full glory, but I can't help it. I'm so excited Nero's back, and he's got a fake arm just like me. It makes me happy. I'm not even kidding. I'm like swaying back and forward on my couch right now, just giddy like a little schoolboy, and just yay. Just seeing how crazy Devil May Cry looks. That logo is sick as hell looking at it. I was like, I want that on a jacket. Like, that is so good. I want Nero's jacket. I want everything. I want his arm. I literally want to get his arm 3D printed just so that way I can wear it. Oh, and how insane it is. Like, I'm not going to lie. I was kind of skeptical of a new Devil May Cry game ever coming out, mostly because like after the debacle everyone calls DMC Devil May Cry happened, I was like, well, that's not going to happen for a while, or at least there's not going to be a new game unless it's a hard reboot of like, no, we're going to bring back classic Dante, everything's going to be fine, we'll be okay. Like it feels like you needed a full-on exorcism after that game came out, and I'm not saying I felt that way because I actually enjoyed the DMC game, but I can understand why other fans were pissed. So the fact that we have a proper number 5 at the end of the title, it's like, no, this is Devil May Cry. We're going to bring back Dante as you know him. Well, kind of as we know him, because let's be fair, he kind of looked like a crazed old man when he was coming out of that motorcycle. Like, seriously, what the hell has he seen?
He's joined Capcom's Hobo Crew.
You mean like what they've done with Mega Man in terms of a franchise or giving him new ideas?
No, haven't you seen like an Apollo Justice? Phoenix Wright looks like a hobo, and Ryu is a hobo, literally.
Oh yeah, that's right. I did not even think about that.
Mm-hmm. So now Dante is part of the Hobo Crew.
Either way, I'm excited that Dante is back in his full form. Nero, I will admit, I was a little surprised by the haircut because I figured that anything related to or tangentially related to on an aesthetic level, they would want to stay away from DMC Devil May Cry with a 10-foot pole while on another planet. So, yeah, I'm kind of surprised that they made Nero get a haircut that kind of makes him look like DMC Dante. So, I'm just a little surprised by that. I also surprised by they toned down a little bit of his color palette, just because I remember him having very prominent reds and blues throughout his entire outfit in DMC4, especially with his demon arm. Now it seems a lot more subdued, if that makes any sense. I'm still happy he has the red queen. I'm assuming he still has the blue rose.
Yeah, it's Blue Rose.
Okay, good. So he has his gun back. Um, but what makes me curious is where does this sit in the timeline? Because I'm trying to do gymnastics in my head and say, okay, well, if three is the earliest part of the timeline, then that means one comes next, then four, then two. So I'm just thinking, wait, does that mean this takes place after two? Because the only reason I'm assuming that is, well, one, Nero looks a little bit older, and I'm guessing since wasn't Dante like literally outside of his shop after the end of DMC2? Like that's the last we see of him or hear of him from that time chronologically.
Yeah, we don't actually see him, if you remember correctly, because the bike shows up and we just see feet.
Right, but that's what I mean. He has a bike with him at the end of DMC2, which is, as far as I can tell, he doesn't really have at any other significant point in the series.
Yeah,
True.
like literally the last shot of DMC2 is him riding into the depths of hell on a motorcycle.
I thought he was coming out of the depths of hell and he was outside of his bar or his Devil May Cry shop.
I'd have to look into it, but I thought that the last shot was him going into hell on his bike. So, because I figured that was sort of like the cliffhanger of that game. It's like, I'm going into hell to fight all the demons, So I didn't think they would kind of end that with a, well, he survived the demons and he's home sort of plot point. But I'd have to look at the end of that again, because maybe that was like a post-credit scene that I didn't see. But either way,
right.
I'll check in on that. But you're right, it is kind of vague as to where this could be plotline wise.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I was assuming that it was taking place after DMC2, because let's be perfectly honest, I've wanted to know what happens after the end of DMC2. And given how grizzled Dante and he looks and how crazy he looks like he's seen some shit. Like, even for a demon hunter of his caliber, he looks like, dude, you kind of go a little bit mad when you've been stuck in hell for as long as I have.
Okay, I just looked up the ending. It ends with literally just Lucia hearing the bike and she runs outside of the DMC shop.
Okay, that's what I thought it was.
Lucia is the red-haired chick, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and also, doesn't his outfit from the trailer kind of look like his outfit from DMC2?
Kind of.
Jalen, you there?
Sorry. You look at the box art of the main visual, it looks closer like to his DMC4 outfit, kind of from the back anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. Maybe I was just being hopeful about the fact that, or the idea that it could be after the end of DMC2. I just want it to be. But either way, I'm just happy that Nero and Dante are back. And I like this theory going around right now of Virgil possibly being an antagonist in the game again, which makes me even wonder, how the frick is he still alive?
Well, okay, let me ask you something. Did we ever actually see him die in Devil May Cry 3?
Literally, he floats up in the air, yells, and then... You mean Devil May Cry 1?
Well, no, I mean, I'm talking in, Devil May Cry 3, because I remember, I thought the thing is, we defeated him in combat, but then he stayed in, that part that was, in hell, and then it looks like he was about to chase after that symbol that was, Mundus's symbol, or whatever, and then we see him show up as Nello Angelo in 1, but my assumption is that since we never actually see him dead for sure in 3, is that was him channeling his spiritual essence into some form into the real world or into the mortal realm in 1, and that he wasn't dead, especially because of the special edition for Devil May Cry 4 allowing you to play as Virgil, implying that he's not actually, dead at that point.
To clarify, his campaign in 4 Special Edition is supposed to be before the events of 4 and before the events of 3. It's supposed to be extra removed.
Oh, really? That's before 3.
Hmm.
Hmm.
When he visits the city of Fortuna. Um, but in DMC3, he at the very end he tries to fight Mundus. What happens is that he loses, and then he gets corrupted by Mundus to become Neela Angela.
Okay, so in that case, he didn't actually die. He was just in hell at that point.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. And mind you, I understand it's vague because obviously seeing him fade away into like nothingness in DMC1, might vary a bit, with what we see as like what's actually going on. But I'd say that hasn't shown him to be definitively dead because him disappearing could have just been like an illusion of the eye. Not to mention there's a million different things if we're gonna talk about demon shit. Where it's like, oh, well, he went to hell again and he was resurrected by another bad guy, or he was resurrected because, oh, he placed a spell on himself to resurrect him later if the need arises, or something. I mean, I don't mean to say that as if to dismiss the validity of like anything that happens plot wise, but you have a million different things that you can do within the lore of this universe that would allow someone to come back from the dead.
This is true.
Maybe I'm just being hopeful about or confused about how this whole timeline placement is working out because I took the idea of Neo Angelo disappearing as okay, so Virgil's soul was corrupted and turned into this. So him fading away was him absolutely dead, as in no coming back type thing. And so that I don't know, maybe considering that there wasn't really much mention of him outside of this one, and seeing him what is possibly him in this trailer kind of makes wonder, what? How are you alive? Where have you been?
Seriously.
And what the frick are you doing to what many are assuming, and I'm pretty sure is it confirmed at this point that Nero is Virgil's son?
Yeah, especially since they're using the novel of 4 to continue the story, which I think that plot point's brought up in.
Okay, so pretty much all but confirmed that Nero is Virgil's son. Virgil rips off his son's arm, and I'm just kind of like, all right, what the hell is going on? Like,
Well, I'll tell you why.
um,
Because Yamato's in Nero's arm.
oh, so he doesn't like anyone touching his toys?
It is his sword from his daddy.
Yeah, but he lost his sword. And not to mention, wasn't Nero the one who kind of reassembled the thing after he took back control of it at DMC4?
Yes, you're correct. But Virgil might not know that.
And even if he does, I don't think that necessarily makes him care, because he might just be like, thanks for putting it back together. I want it back now. There.
You could have just asked him to give the sword back. I mean, you didn't have to fucking rip his arm off like a douchebag. Oh, wait, who am I kidding? Virgil.
He's Virgil, man. He gives no fucks. He's top tier in Ultimate Marvel 3.
Well, he honestly had to get some fuck, otherwise he wouldn't end up with Nero.
Oh, you.
It's interesting how much of a legacy he has, considering that he's technically only appeared in one game.
Right?
DMC
To be fair,
really had an impact.
Yeah, I mean, because he didn't have an official appearance in 4. He wasn't in the first 2 games. He was only like vaguely mentioned in the first game, and not even brought up at all in the second game. Which, granted, a lot of people don't talk about the second game anyway, so moot point. But it's like the fact that has such a huge impact implies to me that people really do latch onto his character a lot.
He is like the quintessential rival character in these kind of like stylish action games. Like when you look at Jean,
yeah,
or Jetstream Sam,
or Sashomaru.
Yeah, that too.
I literally see him as just Sashomaru from Inuyasha. Because I mentioned this before, I genuinely, as much as I enjoy the Devil May Cry series, I literally see it as like a mashup / ripoff of Inuyasha and The Matrix.
Inuyasha and The Matrix.
Well, look at the bright side. At least we don't have a giant cock tease running around with them.
Because I mean,
Oh Jesus!
well, depends on. I mean,
To be fair,
but he
Dante
does
is the cock
though.
tease.
What about
Please, don't feel fire to the Yaoi fanfics.
Well, I mean, look at Girl though. Who was the name of the fucking lady? Yeah, that's it. Look at Lady or look at Trish.
Wow, Lenny.
I forgot that her
Girl.
name. What lady, girl, woman?
To be fair, you weren't far off.
Correct gender, wrong name.
Oh god. But goddamn. But no, that aside though, it's yeah, I do enjoy all that stuff, even if I don't find it highly it's the same thing I mentioned before. It's not an original concept, but it's very well executed. And that is what I think is important here. And that's the thing. I'm actually, to be honest, a little surprised at how positively people are taking this game, because this game, especially its trailer, seems to share a lot of the traits that people were highly critical of when it came to DMC Devil May Cry. And so I'm actually kind of... I'm glad, but also annoyed, I guess. Like, I'm glad that people like it, because it's like, hooray, I like the look of this game, and now you do too. Let's all enjoy it together. But then I'm also annoyed, because I'm like, why weren't you this accepting of all these things that you now like back when it happened with the previous game? Because, like, look at Nero. Nero actually, at this point, shares a lot of traits with DMC Devil May Cry's Dante. You know, he's got the shorter hair. He's not technically, the real Dante. He's got the cocky attitude. He's got, like, the... he has, like, the kind of, like, alternate, like, weird female sidekick thing. They have a potty mouth thing. I mean, that's the other thing. A lot of people are critical about the way he was talking, and they have some of that in here, too. It has a very noticeably different visual style. I mean, I remember you mentioned this, too, where it's not using the previous Capcom, like, Decima, or whatever you want to call it, engine. It's using, I think, the RE7 engine, so it's a bit more photorealistic. Right. And I remember you mentioned it being uncanny. So, and also, there's going to be some noticeable differences in gameplay. Now, that's going to be so different that everyone's going to hate it, but it's going to have noticeable differences in gameplay and look and in character, and it has a lot of things that match this stuff. But... because, again, I may be way overly analytical about this, I feel as if just because it has a 5 on the end of its name and its hair is white, they're giving everything a pass. Like, I hate to be hyperbolic like that, but I genuinely feel like that this time around.
I think one of the things is, like, when you really delve into the trailer, like I've been doing for the past, ever since it came out, like, one of the things they show you straight off with gameplay is, like, Nero's basic sword combo. And it is the exact same, like, animations for the most part. Even with, like, how weighty it feels when he, like, does the last hit. And when they show you, like, the first, like, Devil Breaker, and it does the exact same, like, basic Devil Bringer thing he did with, like, grabbing the enemy and then tossing them around. And then later on, they showed, like, Nero still can rev up Rev Queen, and he can still do it mid-combo, and he can still use it to enhance his attacks. Like, the small stuff is still there. Like, even if it looks a little bit different, it's still Devil May Cry under the hood. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I don't doubt that, but the thing that I would say is that I remember a lot of people at the time being rather critical of Nero because they weren't fond of the gameplay changes, and they weren't fond of his character. So to me, having it go from, we don't like this character, to, hey, it's the same as the character we didn't like, and now he has more traits akin to the character that we also didn't like, and for some reason this comes out with a positive result, as in what we have now, and that just sort of baffles me. It's like, oh wow, we didn't like this character, and now he resembles the other character, the DMC Devil May Cry Dante, with the shorter hair and the different look and everything else, and some of the way that he's approaching things, I would say, matches some of his attitudes. It's something of an enigma to me. It's, you take a thing they didn't like and another thing they didn't like, and you mash it up, and now they love it. it's something that I genuinely see as like modern day fucking alchemy. Like, how the fuck did you do that? And I
I
understand
think
there's.
the only thing I can really say is that time made more people like Nero,
Mhm.
especially after they saw Reboot Dante. They were like, well, damn, Nero's not as bad as Reboot Dante. I like Nero now.
Mhm.
I could see that happening.
I guess it's like, I guess when we put it like that, because I always found that to be very ironic. I guess in a sense, because Devil May Cry 4 came out, and then they're like, we don't like this. We want something not this, because we don't like this. And then they're like, oh, okay, well, we won't give you this anymore. We'll give you something different. And then it's like, no. It's,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't like to frame people on the other end of my arguments as childish, because I feel like that's kind of like it's a fallacious argument, but I genuinely see it as like a kid, where like they have like a glass of milk and they're like, no, I don't want that. And then they're like, oh, okay, you don't want this glass of milk. Okay, fine. I've got you a different glass. And then they whine again, even though they got exactly what they wanted. It's not to say that different equals good, because I feel like that is equally as a bad argument as, different equals bad. But
Mm-hmm.
I do find it interesting that it's like, they complain about Nero and then they give him something different because they asked for something different. And it's not and when they say we want something different, what they mean is give us exactly the same thing that we had before. And I think that's the kind of thing. It's like, on one hand, if I'm going to frame it in a positive light, you have that familiarity, that sort of guarantee that it's going to have the gameplay mechanics you've come to know and love. But on the other hand, you're not making anything new. You're just giving them the same game in a slightly different shell or in a more prettier shell. And then everyone's like, hooray, even though I could play the previous game, which is available on all the modern consoles, like remaster and everything else, I'm going to get this new one with all this other stuff because I don't like change. Huzzah! It's sort of that. Although I do say, if I'm going to kind of put a little stroke against my own argument, I am interested to see how his mechanical arm will change up gameplay mechanics.
Now, I was hoping you bring up the Devil Breaker because I think it comes to a solution that Nero had as a character. Because even before Special Edition, which added, Virgil, Trish, and Lady, he was very underwhelming compared to Dante. And that's mostly because he was supposed to be a beginner character
Mm-hmm.
to ease people into the gameplay. But outside of like his charging mechanic and the very specific things you can do with the Devil Bringer, he's not that interesting to like once you've like learned him, he's learned. Like you can't really like reapply everything like you can with Dante.
Yeah.
And so I think having all these different Devil Breaker arms will add some variety and make him at least a bit more interesting to players as they get better at the game.
Yeah. I can agree to that. With that in mind, we've been on this topic a little bit longer than I initially anticipated, but that's good. I've said my piece at least. I'm very excited for the game, even though I'm gonna be completely blunt with this. Not that this applies to anyone as an individual, but I do feel like the fan base in general is showing shades of hypocrisy by loving this game despite it showing all the signs of the things they explicitly argued against for the previous game. But I couldn't care less because I still like the previous game, so because even if this is similar to DMC Devil May Cry, I benefit from it. If it's not, I still like the old games, so I also benefit from it, because I like all the games in the series, even DMC 2. I don't think it's a good game, but I do like it a bit. And so I literally benefit from everything, no matter what gameplay it's like. And I'm eager to see more from it, especially more plot details. Because I have no idea what the fuck is going on.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, so that's my piece.
Well,
Do you guys have anything else to say on DMC before we move on to the next title?
I can't wait to see Dante gameplay. Yeah.
Let's hope they don't make this a game where you have to go through one half of the stages as Nero and the other half as Dante in reverse again.
Oh my god, I really hope they don't do that. But from the way Itsuno's been talking, this is supposed to be what Devil May Cry 4 should have been.
That makes me very eager.
Mm-hmm. Very good. So, this one will probably be very short-lived. The Division 2.
Tom Clancy games are still a thing.
I got nothing. I mean,
I
I was
mean,
just
people
I
like the
didn't
first one, right?
um I
I
think
heard
people
it was
liked it enough,
trash.
like they liked it enough to where they didn't tear it to shreds, but they were very disappointed from it because it was like hyped up to fucking hell and high water, and then it just underperformed those hype expectations.
Mm.
So I think people generally say it's competently made, but it's really boring once you actually get into it.
Oh, damn.
I
Because
heard it was. I heard it was kind of trashed a little bit at launch, at least in my circle of people that I knew. At least, especially my modeling teacher. Like he was a big proponent of the division before it came out, and then he just commented on how boring it was afterwards. And then I heard it slowly got better with new updates, but let's be honest, we haven't heard really much of anything positive coming from the division in the past year or so in terms of content update and being newsworthy. I mean, let's be real. We've heard more relevant, positive news coming from No Man's Sky than Division.
that's saying something. Although, granted, they had nowhere to go but up. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true. I'm just putting this in perspective.
no, you're absolutely right. With that in mind, I think we should move on to our next title, which is Dying Light 2. Do any of you
I'm
guys?
actually
Sorry, go ahead, Barry.
no, I'm not gonna lie. This actually caught my attention with two magical words: Chris Avalon.
Oh, is he the writer for this one?
Yes, he is. He is the writer for this one, and he's also the writer of Knights of the Republic 2.
Sweet.
So, with that in mind, I'm trying to wonder, he's going to be writing the game. Okay. Does this potentially mean that we could have somewhat of a, I don't know, deconstruction of the zombie genre inside of Dying Light 2? Maybe I'm just being too hopeful for that, expecting that out of a zombie game, but considering that his name is attached to it, I have some mild interest in this, or at least it's enough to where it's like, okay, you are on my radar officially, but not too much yet to where I'm actually wanting to buy it. Just
Mm,
quite yet.
yeah,
I will
I
say
agree.
though, the parkour system looks pretty dope too.
Yeah, nah, I definitely agree. I'm interested more with like the moral quandary kind of thing because maybe it's just because of my own personal things. I've been playing a lot of Tyranny lately, but I like the fact that they say that the plot will have consequences on both gameplay and the world based on how you choose to handle certain interactions. I think that that's a fantastic way to have if you have like branching story paths and like actual like decisions that affect the world. And I think that someone who's previously written like an RPG game is absolutely the best person to handle when it comes to writing multiple storylines that are all affected by this.
Yeah, I'm actually very curious to see him pull this off because I know he did it with KOTOR 2 and arguably wrote the best Star Wars story, period, almost period. But I'm curious to see what kind of characters he actually makes in this. Whether or not someone will have, say, the impact of Kreia from KOTOR 2, which I know was written to be sort of his voice on the Star Wars universe as a whole.
Yeah.
So yeah, that actually makes me very excited for the idea. So we'll see. Like basically, I'm just extending an invitation to Dialect to and say, hey, let's sit down, let's have a chat.
Mm-hmm.
You gonna take it out for dinner?
Let's not jump ahead too quickly. I want to get introductions out of the way first.
All right, what about you, Jalen? What do you think of Dying Light 2?
Um, I thought that the first Dying Light was pretty cool. Um, I mean, I thought it was okay. I actually never thought it would get a sequel. I didn't think about it, you know? The idea never came across to me, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get you.
So I'm surprised, and it's like, okay, that's cool. I can check it out in the future, but I'm not like, it's not like, oh man, I gotta have this, you know?
Yeah, I get you. Fair enough. I mean, I just think it's gonna be an interesting thing. I don't really have any much else to say. It looks fun. I'd like to pick up the previous copy game because I did beat it once, but I didn't play the following, and I honestly found certain things with like the checkpoint system be kind of infuriating. But we'll see how it goes from there. I'll say I did enjoy certain parts of it when I was playing it. Do you guys have anything else to say before we move on to the next title?
Well, actually, I do have something mild to say, and I don't know if this is worth noting, but I'm starting to notice a slight trend, at least, with some of the sequels being announced this year, or at least being presented here, as reality of, sorry, in the vein of the game that the developers originally wanted to present, but couldn't quite nail down the concept just yet. Like Tom Clancy's Division 2 seems to me more like the vision of what they had for the original Division, but since they were sort of muddled in production or didn't quite know how to hammer down the concept yet, we got the original Division, and now this is like, no, this is what we originally had in mind. Same thing with Dying Light, where this is what we had originally planned for Dying Light, but we couldn't nail it down just yet. So I'm assuming that's what Dying Light 2 is. It's like, no, this is what we originally planned for the game. We just didn't have the time or inclination or ability to do it right just yet. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me overanalyzing or me trying to be hopeful of the sequels wanting to be the true intention of the developers of what they originally wanted to make.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I think that's a good observation, Perry.
I mean, is it idealistic? Yes, but I'm trying to be at least somewhat hopeful.
They want to have no regrets.
Fair enough. With that, though, this is probably going to be brief. Forza Horizon 4.
We are Microsoft. We really like cars. So next thing we're going to do, we put cars in weather.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on that. That'd be pretty much. I mean, it looks pretty, looks fun, but they've all looked pretty and they've all looked fun. Jalen, do you have anything about this before we move on to the next one?
If you like Forza, I'm happy for you.
Excellent.
I actually did want to comment one last thing of it does kind of look potentially fun as an open world game. I will admit the part where they were driving around and racing on the frozen lake made me happy and made me sort of perk up my eyebrow a little bit and say, oh, does this mean you're actually going to make an open world racing game that's, you know, an actual open world racer and not just, oh, we're going to put you in an open world but funnel you down a track like everything else?
I certainly hope that's the case.
If so, then I don't know. I might want to look into this a little bit more. So I'll have to keep an eye on it.
So, now that that's there, we're going to move on to this is a segment I brought up previously. And this is the idea that I mentioned before with Command and Conquer, alright? A mobile version of a game is not something that people are inherently against. They are only inherently against it if it is there as a replacement for a mainline game. As in, we aren't making the next game in the series, have a mobile game instead. That's what gets people pissed off. I say this because the next thing we have on the docket here for Microsoft is Gears Pop, which is a mobile game featuring the Gears of War characters, featuring the Funko Pop iterations of those characters doing presumably combat against each other. Now, we didn't get any details about what this game actually is, but we do know that it's going to be on mobile, and that's going to feature these characters. That's literally it. It could be a strategy game, it could be a collectathon, I have no fucking clue. But when I first saw this, I literally thought it was going to be the same thing that I said with Command & Conquer. I'm like, you don't just make a mobile game without making the other one. That's what pisses everyone off. So they followed that up with an announcement for a spin-off called Gears Tactics, which is basically like XCOM but with Gears of War characters, and it takes place 12 years before the first Gears of War. So I perked up. I'm like, okay, it's not a main game in the series, but it's an actual game. You know, one for like a console or for a PC, where it's not just a mobile game, it's like a full-fledged game, even if it's not in the same genre. And I was like, you know what? Fair enough. That's fine. But then they decided to fucking kick me while I wasn't looking, because then they're like, oh, and also, by the way, here's the actual sequel to the main series. Here's Gears of War 5. Because why the fuck not? So, I was pleased. I was pleased because they weren't using spin-offs or mobile games as a sacrifice for the mainline games. And I'm not gonna lie, the creature design and the character focus of the story for this one has actually made me more interested in this franchise than I actually ever have been in the past. And I don't know if that's something that you guys will share or not, but between these three things, I think it was a very well done presentation bringing up these Gears of War titles. Either of you can take the floor on this one.
Jalen, how about you have your piece first?
Okay, it's gonna be short. I'm glad they did. You know, there's a little something for everybody here. If you like some strategy and you like Gears, here's some Gears strategy for you. If you like Funko Pops on your mobile game thing, you got that.
It's awfully niche, but I guess that's accurate.
And you happen to like Gears, that's a double plus. Can I just say, I never thought I'd see Funko Pops in a game, or being like the main, like one of the main attractions of a game. You get to play as the Funko Pop versions of these characters.
Watch this be like a massive seller, and then you start seeing Funko Pop versions of everything. I guarantee you, we're gonna probably have something like a Halo Funko Pop or something like that.
Jesus Christ, Funko Pops are going to be the minions of toys.
Oh dear God. Microsoft, what have you done?
They just opened the door for it to happen.
You know, no. You know what would be the most surprisingly meta-ish thing about this idea?
Funko Pokemon.
No, Funko Pop rabbits.
Oh my god.
Oh no.
Why would you do this to us, Perry?
I'm just saying right now. I mean, you said
boy.
There were the minions of video games. It's like, we already have those. They're called the rabbits.
Yeah, shit, you're right.
Yeah.
And to be fair, they're much more entertaining than minions, because at least then we don't have to look like a Simpsons testicle.
Fucking pills.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, but that was strange just to see.
Do you, Perry, have any thoughts on the Gears of War 5 itself before we move on to the next topic?
Actually, yes, because I remember playing the entire trilogy when it came out. I never bothered playing Judgment because I was already off Microsoft consoles by that point. And I'm trying to remember if there was another Gears title in between that and 4. I don't think I ever played Gears 4 now that I think about it. Yeah, I don't think I ever played Gears 4 or Gears Judgment. But I did play 1 through 3, and I actually enjoyed 1 through 3 for what they were. I actually played the crap load out of the multiplayer for 2. I thought that was a ton of fun. And I think I did a lot for 3. So, yeah, I have some attachment to the series. From what I understand, Marcus is supposed to be... Yeah, Marcus is the main character for the first 3. Then it was Barrett for Judgment. I don't even remember who was the main character for. I think it might have been Marcus's son.
I thought he had a
then
daughter.
My question is... Oh, I thought it was his son. For a second, thought it was his son. Anyways, for Gears 5, that just makes me raise a question. Like, how old is Phoenix at this?
He is literal dust.
I was like, God damn it, dude. How are you this jacked in this age? Like, how are you not dead?
Because that's the reason.
Honestly, I want to see like an age bracket or something like that to determine like how old is this character, because I'm assuming that this is taking place over the course of, I don't know, a few decades or something like that. I was always under the assumption that Marcus was probably in his 40s or his 50s when the first game came out. And by the time Gears 3 ended, he would have been in his maybe his mid to late 50s. I don't know. Maybe I'm just assuming that. And he would have
Damn, I thought he was like 30.
Yeah, I was about to say I would
I
assume like mid-30s for the first years.
I don't know. It seemed like he had already had a bit of a history with the army, and I was like, okay, so he's obviously been there for several years. He got thrown in prison at some point, or I don't even remember point Gears 1. I know he was in jail cell or something like that, and pulled out of prison because they needed him. So I'm just assuming he was a little bit older. And now this one, it looks like it takes place a couple decades afterwards. So I got to assume he's at least got to be in his 60s or his 70s, and or max early 80s. And I'm like, how the fuck are you still standing? How are you not like in a wheelchair or something like that, or better yet, dead?
Just dead Marcus Phoenix, playable character.
I don't know. It just surprises me. I need a timeline or a chronology of events or something like that to determine how old Marcus is. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm happy to see him because I was like, hey, he's still around. But that also makes me wonder, wait, are the rest of the old squad dead already? Like, are all the Carmine brothers already dead? Or is Coltrane still even alive? Or Barrett? Or Dominic's already dead. So, spoiler alert, Dominic's dead. Anyways, probably the dumbest way I thought he could have died, but that's beside the point. So yeah, I'm just kind of curious of where this falls in line with the games. I'm actually kind of curious to see what I don't even know what the other Phoenix kid's name, so I'm just gonna call him Phoenix Junior. Something's really jacked up with his arm. And it's like, wow, when did that happen? And it looks like he has some kind of numbing agent to reduce the pain from the locust swarm. I'm assuming he got covered in acid or something like that and just massively burned his arm. I don't know. I'm just speculating at this point because like I said, never bothered playing Judgment or 4, so I can't say crap. I mean, am I interested in playing Gears 5? Sure, I wouldn't mind playing it. It would probably be a good excuse to play the series again. But would it be enough to, like Lenny said, enough for me to get an Xbox One? No, because I could probably just easily get this on PC.
You can.
So yeah, no real reason to get the control or get the console itself. So yeah, I'm cool with the fact that it's Gears 5 is a thing. As for the whole Funko Pop thing, can't play mobile games, so that literally negates any reason for me to care. As for the Gears XCOM kind of game, what's the name of that one actually?
Gears Tactics.
Okay, yeah, Gears Tactics. I'm not opposed to a Gears War strategy game. I'm thinking, you know what? Out of all the series that you could potentially do this with, Gears is not a hard one to kind of make it fit. So I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm always down for a strategy game, whether that be tactics based or real time strategy. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. Cool. I'm glad you had your thoughts on that one, Perry. It's good because you definitely know more about this than us, and that's always good. But this next one, I think we'll all have a bit more. Next one on the docket is Jump Force.
Fucking anime.
I'm gonna say this. I like the concept, but that name needs work. Like I know that space. It's like okay, show and jump, on the force because like attack and power and everything. It's like I get the name, but I feel like that could really use some work.
It sounds really generic if you know nothing.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be completely honest. I saw a little bit of a gameplay demo from some other channels that I watch on YouTube. I really hope they spruce up the gameplay because it looks very, very stiff right now, and that is the exact opposite that you want with all these kind of characters,
Mm-hmm. Oh, it reminds me a lot of Burning Blood, One Piece Burning Blood, which is also made by Spike Chunsoft, who also made the game that I can't think of his name. Shonen Jump is the other Shonen Jump game that was out before Jump Force.
Oh,
I can't think of his
J-Stars?
name. Yeah, J-Stars. The game had a lot of potential in it. It's just not fun to play.
And that's a shame because I remember I initially got J-Stars Plus or whatever, and I literally only kept it for like I was initially gonna try it out and I was like, this is great. And I'm like, okay, this isn't. But then I mained Bobobo for about 2 days, and then I was like, okay, I can't. The lifeblood of this game can't be sustained like only by Bobobo. So I'm bringing this game back in.
Hmm.
Which is a shame because I do think the concept has a lot of cool things to it, and the trailer itself looks really promising. Like, it looks like they have a much bigger budget, and that's really cool. But it's
Fucking Light and Ryuk are in this game.
yeah. So, but I'm gonna need to see just a bit more polish and make it a little bit more fluid because right now it just seems super stiff, and that's not my jam. Not that every game has to be super fluid for me to like it, but I feel like it's important for that to be a thing when you have characters like this, when you have a budget like this, it's like feeling stiff. I feel like kind of goes against the power fantasy that these characters are meant to kind of evoke when you're playing as them,
Exactly.
But what do you think, Barry?
Nice budget, looks potentially fun. Wrong developer.
Yep.
And I can say that with one simple name: CyberConnect 2.
Hey, you and me had the same idea.
What a coinky dink. Same here.
I mean,
Oh man, it's like we're connected.
let's be perfectly honest. Anyone with their salt or worth their salt should be able to look at this game and said, this has CyberConnect 2 written all over it. They should be the ones developing this.
Yep.
I mean, let's be okay. Let me put it this way: like, if CyberConnect 2 was doing this, would you be like more or less excited?
I'd be way more excited because even on back on the PS3 when they were doing the Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm games, they had way more fluid gameplay. And to be honest, as much as I like the budget that they have for this, because the character designs look pretty cool in the sort of I don't want to say photorealistic, but in more graphically designed kind of way, they have more texture to them than usual. I do think that CyberConnect would have probably done a better job making it look more accurate to the original source material. Because looking at their Naruto games, it looks just like the anime.
Here's my biggest problem with the game: the environments are too realistic for the characters.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. That took me a while to wait, are they in New York?
I think they're trying to get the jump characters are fighting in the real world, and you can't see me air quoting, but I'm air quoting. But one of the stages they showed off in the demo is literally the planes with Frieza's ship in the background and a Saiyan spaceship on the ground, and it's got cool textures. There's cool electricity flying off of the Saiyan spaceship, it's broken and stuff. You can see all that detail, but the characters clash with the cool environment.
Yeah, it looks very, very odd considering that they're trying to go for it looks like a pseudo-realistic look to them.
I'd say stylized realism rather than anime kind of visuals. It isn't. It's trying to be anime without being cell shaded.
Yeah. Which is harder to pull off.
Yeah, and
when you do pull it off, it looks nice.
It doesn't look necessarily bad, but I will say that you're right. The art direction could definitely use some work, and not like they could change that now. They've already released the trailer, so unless they do a major overhaul, they won't be able to do it. But if they just add a very nice, healthy amount of characters from each franchise, and then they keep it up with some nice fluid gameplay, because it's apples and oranges. But if they can't compete with the kind of gameplay fidelity we get out of Dragon Ball FighterZ, then it's not something that I think people are going to convert to. Because then they're going to be like, well, I already have an anime fighter. It's over here. And it's way better. It's made by Arc System Works. You need to step your game up. So,
Hell, even the My Hero Academia game coming out, I think just overall looks better because everything's cohesive. And it just looks better to me because of that,
I agree.
Sorry, I was looking up more gameplay footage of Jump Force, and I saw one of the comments that says 80% of this game is going to be voiced by Chris Sabat.
That's good. Do we have anything else to say on this one before we move on?
Um, Small little request for Hunter x Hunter characters and Rurouni Kenshin, please. Also, switch developers to CyberConnect too. No offense to Spike Chunks but CyberConnect could do this really, really well.
Fair enough. With that in mind, we're gonna go to Just Cause 4.
AKA Just Cause 2. Fuck physics, the game. Now with tornadoes.
Yep, it's literally just, hey, it's Just Cause 2 and 3 again, but you have slightly more things, and honestly, that's fine, because as long as they keep giving you new environments to go on, and they keep giving you new toys to do things in those new environments, I'm okay with what they're trying to do. You know? Because it's not like Madden where it's like almost basically the exact same game, but you slightly change the roster, you know? It's like, if you have a new island, and you have new guns and new abilities and new story and everything else, and it's like, yeah, then that's good. Even though the core gameplay concept's the same, it's like, don't break what isn't broke, you know? Or don't fix what isn't broken. I'm bad at that metaphor, but you know what I'm talking about.
I agree.
I don't have much to say. It looks at bonkers as usual, and that's about all we ask from it, and that's pretty good. Do you guys have anything else to add before we move on from that one?
Nah, I think you covered it pretty well.
Okay. Now I've got this next one here. This one here is kind of a doozy, and we discussed this in the pre-show. But this was covered at multiple conferences, so anytime it's brought up again, we will not mention it again, because we're all going to kind of get everything out of the way right here. Kingdom Hearts 3. Which of you guys want to take the floor on this one?
I can start.
Go for it.
Okay, first of all, I'm gonna say the game got delayed, and I figured that was gonna happen. That was pretty obvious. Don't be upset, people. Second of all, they showed us a lot, and like they showed us a goddamn lot, and a lot of what they showed was actually really cool. Like the pirate stuff from Sony, the Frozen stuff. Even though like the sledding stuff was cool, we got to see some character models. I'm actually really impressed. The character models and the game looks great graphically.
I was gonna bring that up too, actually. Like, not that it looks on the par with like the movies, but I will say the animation of like the various like Pixar movie ones, like specifically like Elsa or Rapunzel from Tangled, like they look like they could have been ripped straight out of the movie with how expressive they are. Like they just nailed the bounciness and the expressivity, I guess I would say, of like Pixar's animation when it comes to this game.
Yeah, and we saw Wreck-It Ralph summon. They showed off Ratatouille.
Yep.
They showed off, of course, the pirates stuff, and the cool pirate like ship battling segment that had looked really, really good. And then we got some voice acting and some story moments. And then here's the kicker. Oh man, Aqua's had enough time waiting for Kingdom Hearts 3. She's fucking evil now. She did a fucking face heel turn. God damn it, Nomura. And I think this is what he meant by fans wouldn't like the direction that the story was gonna go.
I get you. Cool.
It's I think it's an interesting like thing to do. People care about Aqua a lot, apparently. I mean, I think she's but I'm still looking forward to the game. I'm gonna play it and I'll be like, I finished the Kingdom Hearts tour. It took 1,800 years, but I did it.
Well, I think it'll be interesting, especially because I remember at the Sony announcement they said that there would be like a complete bundle where they have like, the 1.5, 2.5, 2.8, and 3 all together in one bundle available on PS4 and PS4 Pro.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's fucking sick for anyone who like hasn't been into this series before, because like I picked up the 1.5 and the 2.5 ones, so it's like amazing. I can finally try to attempt to decipher all this bullshit.
At this point, you should just enjoy it for what it is.
I'm gonna say yeah. I'm gonna try and enjoy it for what it is, because it's like I have to be self-indulgent with this series, because if I try and be even a little bit critical, I come across some of those lines where it's like, his heart is inside of mine and our friendship will overcome this, or the darkness in his heart, it'll persevere because I trusted him. Like, stuff like that. Again, I don't like using the word cringe, but I literally do feel that kind of like schmaltzy cliche kind of stuff whenever they use the word heart or darkness.
Oh my god, oh my god, you're gonna hear that a lot, especially in this game, because like all the darkness villains are here.
Yep.
So be prepared.
I'm prepared. I'm prepared. I'm not prepared, but I'm going in anyway. I will be back in just a short moment. Perry, why don't you give us your thoughts on this?
Well, as you gentlemen know, I haven't exactly been the most forgiving when it comes to Kingdom Hearts in terms of its writing style and overall character interactions. Now, I will admit I've never actually beaten any of the games. I have mostly because I had other shit to do. And also
I have other shit to do. I mean, that's fair. That's very fair.
I mean, come on. When you have other game franchises you're keeping track of, the ones that get yearly releases, you kind of tend to forget about other ones that are just as long running, if not more so.
Mm-hmm.
So Kingdom Hearts just sort of happened to fly by, not to mention it didn't exactly make itself easy to follow, considering that it's been everything to PS2, the DS, my refrigerator.
Yeah, it's on everything.
It's not exactly been convenient. So I will admit I give the series credit for at least now being easy to follow now in terms of being able to buy everything for one system. So
That's true.
that makes it infinitely better and more convenient for people like myself who've never played or beaten the series. I will admit, though, I have made it an almost personal statement to say, okay, I'm going to try and beat every Kingdom Hearts game, at least the ones that I have access to, because I don't know playing the cutscenes for some of the games, because those are some of them in the collections. Those count. But at least the main ones. So 1, 2, Rechain of Memories, Birth by Sleep, I think, I don't remember the other ones. That I think
Dream Drop Distance.
Dream Drop Distance, almost forgot that one.
Mm-hmm.
And 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue. So basically any major story plot element that happens within a gameplay context.
Mm-hmm.
So all those main ones, and then go through the cutscenes of all of them. And I know that this is going to probably be the bane of a lot of Kingdom Hearts fans, and a lot of their dismay say, no, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't play it in this order. It's like, I don't care. You guys talk about how convoluted this plot is. I'm going to play this thing in chronological order to see how this whole thing plays out.
Oh, God.
And yeah, I know it's going to be a freaking mess. I know it's going to be a nightmare to try and decipher everything, considering that all of it's going to be callbacks and allusions to all the other previous games.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the problem. What do? Do you try and go in a nice, clean, straight line? And I would almost going to make a simple and clean pun, but I'm just resisting the urge of going in chronological order and saying, okay, here's point A, here's point Z. I don't need to start at point F, go to G, and then to Q, and then go back to A, and then go to C, and then to Z. I was like, no, let me go through the alphabet in order. So, yeah, I understand that a lot of fans don't like that idea of going in chronological order, but this is going to be one time it's like, okay, I kind of don't care if you say that this is how I should play it in this order. I will play some stuff in order. For example, Birth by Sleep. I know it has a chronological order in terms of its storyline. I think it's Terra story first, Ventus second, Aqua third. So I
Yeah.
will play in that order, but I will not play the series in release order because I am not in the mood to hopscotch timelines.
I think another thing is that, the gameplay is going to be extremely different because, Birth by Sleep kind of like capitalizes on two's formula. Two is completely like a reinvention of one's gameplay, and one's gameplay can be extremely dated.
Oh yeah, I will admit I actually did try out one's gameplay just a little bit. That has some of the worst jumping I've dealt with in a long time.
Yeah, yeah. I know. And to be fair, you do get a better jump in the future when you
No,
get
I hope
in the
so.
game.
I mostly just played it just so that way I could get the feeling for how it starts out. And oh my god, Riku is so try hard edge lord at the beginning.
He almost does not have a personality.
Yeah, it's like, dude, I can almost see your Linkin Park shirt coming from your little yellow banana vest.
Little banana. It is yellow. Yes, that's true. It is that color.
I mean, I was gonna comment on Sora's banana shoes, but I was just like, that's already been done to death.
Him and his size, 45 feet.
Seriously, what the hell, man? You almost have shoes that make Sonic's look petite.
I think he's supposed to be like a reference because he wears the red and yellow just like Mickey does.
Because subtlety.
Yep.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, that's maybe one of the more subtle things in this series, considering how much it beats you over the head with the word darkness like it's a freaking comma.
All hearts return to where they came from. All hearts return to darkness.
Oh, like yeah, this is what I mean by commenting on the characters, and I will admit it's become a running joke now that anytime whenever someone says, whenever people mention about being stressed out or being someone who gets angry or something like that, is like, what do I look like? A Kingdom Hearts character? I'm not even kidding you. I've literally made the Kingdom Hearts franchise a punchline and just saying, like, look, I think that a lot of these characters just really need to learn to chill about the whole like falling to darkness thing. It's not super hard to not have to worry about it. You just learn to control yourself. And apparently that's not something that these people are capable of doing. This is the reason why I would never fit in this universe, because I would literally look like the most calm, composed motherfucker in this entire game.
But Perry, it has Final Fantasy characters and Disney characters. You can have Scrooge McDuck selling ice cream to Yuffie.
And I would still have more emotional stability than either one of those two.
I'm waiting for the moment when I can fucking summon Olaf to one-hit kill Sephiroth.
I will pay good money to see that and laugh my butt off.
That makes me wonder if Olaf will actually be a summon in this game.
I'd assume they'd have to have some summon per planet or something. Not necessarily that they have to have one, but if the frozen summon isn't Olaf, who else would it be?
That's true.
That one frost giant that Elsa created when she left Arendelle.
Also true. Although I don't think he's nearly as marketable, so they might just do that. And either way, even if it's not him, I mean, fucking, I do Ratatouille as well. Imagine fucking Ratatouille turning Sephiroth into soup.
So in other words, Remy would just steal Kirby's Final Smash.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, granted, I would still like that, and it would just make me hungry, though.
Yep.
But no, I will admit I am happy to see the game actually being able to come out, and I'm not gonna lie, there was a part of me that sort of grimaced at seeing Aqua Darkness form, and I'm just like, oh great, everyone's main waifu in the series has now gone total edgelord. Ha ha.
She was the only actiony one when you think about it.
But now Kyrie's apparently going to be taking part in the action, and just watch her have like no significant role in the story whatsoever.
She might. Who knows? She does have the ability to keyblade.
I don't know. I'm being very skeptical about that, considering she has. I mean, wouldn't it be fair to say she has almost zero involvement in the main plot since what, 2?
She was a damsel in distress in 2, and she was a damsel in distress in 1. So,
So yeah, so pretty much zero role, at least significantly.
hmm
Yeah.
well, no, they kind of hinted at it in Dreamed Up Distance at the very, very end.
Again, no significant role.
A hint's a hint, I guess. I don't know. I'm not trying to defend it. I'm just being dumb.
No, you're not being dumb. I understand. You're trying to make a point. It's like no, there's potential for her to have a role, and that's fair. I'm just like I said. I know I'm being a little bit of a smartass, like I said at the beginning. And Kingdom Hearts I knew was going to be one of my targets because I've never been a fan of how, like you were saying, Lenny, how the whole like I will not fall into darkness. His heart is inside my heart, and the writing aspect just makes me want to just slap my forehead. It's like God damn it, you guys have the emotional maturity of a toddler.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about right.
Maybe it's just because I know this is gonna sound weird. Maybe I'm just a little old, and just to say, like, guys, this isn't hard to do. This is not hard to control. Okay, just be calm, composed. Just think about it for a second. Realize that what you're doing. Take off the Linkin Park soundtracks. Take off the death metal t-shirts. Stop trying to be angsty towards your parents. Learn to grow a pair and calm the frick down.
What parents?
Actually, now that you mention it, you do have a good point.
They
Considering
don't
they're about
fucking exist.
parents in
It's,
Pokemon,
yeah, it's like Pokemon or
yeah.
Ed, Ed and Eddie. Parents are just a not thing.
or they're like the ones in Peanuts, where they're just a womp 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 over the phone.
Right.
They don't exist.
Actually, come to think of it, wasn't there a moment in the first one where I think it was Sora's mom or something like that was calling him down for dinner, and that's literally the only time you ever hear an implication of parents?
Yes. And then their world was destroyed.
So yeah, and last I checked, when he got to what was it, Traverse Town or something like that, the first world in KH1, like that one, like, he has no reaction to his whole world being destroyed.
Yeah, no, he's
Or-
literally just upset because his fucking love interest isn't there. And that's
To be
like,
fair, he didn't realize it until later.
well, yeah, but it's still a matter of like, oh wow, my entire home and family are gone. Where's my girl at?
Ah, Kyrie.
Where's my lay at? Okay.
This 12-year-old.
And let's be real. We all know he was referring to Riku.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Don't get started on that.
Like I said, I'm going to be a smartass. Okay.
Dude, it's not even like that's the fans' fault. The games don't help.
Yeah, that's true. I really
the
don't.
games do not help at all. But
I mean, isn't there one point where like, Sora runs into both Riku and Kairi at the same time, and Sora's just like, oh hi, Kairi," and then he starts bawling at the sight of Riku.
Yes.
yeah.
So again, like you're saying, Lenny, the games are not helping.
Yeah, because I don't think they're going out of their way to say that they're gay for each other, but I think they heard it at one point, and then they're like, well, we're not gonna deny it at all.
Yeah,
We'll give something for those fans to write about. Ho 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 ho.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But-
about as subtle as the Yuri of us.
Yep.
Did you just call it the Yuri of us?
Yes, I did.
Holy shit. Lenny, stop this man.
Okay, I'll do so. Good conversation, Perry. We're gonna move on to the next game.
Oh, just wait for it. I've got more.
All right. There's not gonna unless there's something super significant. I kind of want to move forward a little bit more quickly through Microsoft One because don't get me wrong, great conference, but there's a few more major titles I kind of want to go over, and Truth be told, this is running a little bit longer so far than I've anticipated, even though I knew it was going to take hours and hours. I guess the pacing is not quite what I expected. So I'm going to see if I can quicken my pace a little bit. Not to say that you guys need to rush, but at least for the conferences that I'm hosting, I'm hoping we can plow through the less important ones. So, or at least ones that are not on our radar. All right, you guys with me on this?
Agreeo.
Yes, I'm cool with that.
Cool. All right. Next up, Metro Exodus.
It's a Metro game. It looks cool. I'm also kind of curious to see if that bullet being the currency mechanic is still a thing. Because they were being very, very generous with expending bullets.
I believe it is still a thing. Yeah, I'm going to say that for the most part, it generally is a thing. It depends on certain parts of the game, because I think different ammunition has different values. So, like, the type that you might be using might not be the same as the type you use for currency, but it varies. Jalen, do you have anything on this before we hop to the next one?
You know, I know jack shit about Metro.
It's fairly good, actually. It's got a pretty kind of interesting look at like a sort of post-apocalyptic Russia. And it's generally pretty well liked, pretty well produced by the people who like that sort of thing. So I definitely recommend. They actually have the remastered pack on PS4 and PC. So if you haven't touched them before, now's a pretty good time to do it, especially because they've updated the visuals and rescaled the difficulty. So, you know, if it sounds way too hard, you can try it out on easy. If you want a challenge, they got fucking like Ranger mode, which is like no HUD, everything kills you sort of shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds nice. I'll do that.
Cool. Moving on from there, we have Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which was already announced last year, but they show off a new trailer for it. Just looks very pretty, and I'm very pleased with it. I mean, that's all I got for that. You guys have anything on Ori?
I know a lot of people who are super excited for Ori. It looks very good. I should play the first one. This one looks really good too. I like what I saw. There you go.
Cool. What do you think, Perry?
I am very happy to see this.
Me too.
Although I will admit I was a little bit confused considering it was drawing so much attention to the freaking owl. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of wondering, it's like, wait, did you guys shift direction and now switching protagonists from Ori to the owl? I mean, okay, I guess, but what about Ori? So, and that kind of threw me off a little bit, but oh my god, this game looks gorgeous.
Yeah, I think the reason why they focused on the owl so much is because the antagonist of the first game was a giant grown-up owl.
Yes, that is a fair point.
Yeah, so that's plot relevant, but anyway, next up they showed a new, didn't say the developer, but they're showing a new skateboarding game called Session. And I have no idea who it's made by or what it's about, but if I have my hopes high, which I don't because I know nothing, but if I did, I would hope it would be a good successor to Tony Hawk, because I'm not kidding, I've waited a long time for like a good kind of skateboarding game to come back and fill that gap, especially after the huge fucking ball of fucking shit fire that was Pro Skater 5.
Damn, Lenny, you're starting to get into my levels of madness.
It was literally just made for them to hold on to the license, and everything about it was bad. Like, I think literally the only good thing they added to the game was the stomp mechanic, and even then they fucked that up a lot. Just look up like reviews around that time, and you'll see everyone talking about the bugs and the lack of content and just the fucking everything. It's but that aside,
But you can play as Lil Wayne.
Oh boy, it's a 9 out of 10 now instead of a -8. Thank you for helping me in my times of woe and strife, Jalen. But
you ended up going from playing a Shrek to Lil Wayne. How do you feel about that?
That's great. Do you guys have any thoughts on Session before we move on to the next one?
No, I mean, it's a skateboarding game, so not much I can really say about it. I will admit, I tried looking up the team, Creature Studios, which Yeah, it's like it's supposed to be creature, but there's a hyphen in the middle of it.
Well, yeah.
So I was trying to look up the team. It's like, oh wait, I can't find a wiki about their team at all. So I mean,
Damn.
I can find one on the game, but I can't find one on the team or the developer. So I'm assuming this is probably their first title.
It says that this was kickstarted early last year, so it probably is their debut
Oh.
title.
Okay. I can only hope it has the great. It's like Tony Hawk's Underground, and it has the greatest villain ever, Eric Sparrow.
Oh, fucking goddamn. Like
I might need some context for this. Who is this Sparrow?
Eric Sparrow from the story mode of Tony Hawk's Underground.
I've never heard of this.
Oh my god. He is a piece of shit.
He's a legendary villain among video games.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, are you being facetious or are you being serious?
I'm being serious.
I'm being a mix of both. Because he's simultaneously, like, actually such a huge fucking douchebag that it's, like, really easy to hate him. But it's also kind of, like, a meme to, like, mention him as that. Just because of how much people hate him. Because it's not, like, like, again, he's not, like, fucking Big Boss or Thanos where there's super amazingly developed, multifaceted villains that are a threat to the universe or anything. He's just the biggest douchebag ever. Like,
and then he's your best friend.
Yeah, he's your best friend, and he's the biggest douche ever, and he fucks you over hardcore, and then he keeps acting like a dick afterwards with little to no remorse. It's like they specifically created him for people to just fucking hate his existence. And that's what's so great about his character.
He steals your fame multiple times in the game.
Like, no joke, there's a part where you do an insanely, like, dangerous trick that, like, no one else has ever pulled off before.
Mm-hmm.
And you basically give this tape that you have of you doing this trick to him, saying, hey, can you submit this to this trick tournament because I have to do some other shit? And then he's like, no problem, man. Sure thing. And then he tells everyone that he did it because the camera footage is just quite not clear enough to see who actually did it. And so he gets these massive sponsorship deals, and he gets, like, international TV and fame and, like, money and wealth and, like, all this shit. And he doesn't even, like, talk to you again until you start from, like, the bottom again. Like, you literally, they kick you out because they're like, oh, well, you didn't enter qualifying tape, so you're gone. So you start off literally at the bottom at, like, low-rank local skating tournaments again, and then you have to build your fame up until you're at his level later on, and you meet him, and he's like, sup, loser.
Wow.
Yeah. That is, yes, Perry, that is the kind of reaction. That is the appropriate response.
Yep, indeed.
Honestly, I did not expect you guys to react so like viciously to that just one word statement.
No,
I had the same exact reaction.
Yeah, no, it encapsulates exactly. It's relatable, Perry, because we were like that too. We were like, wow, what a fucking dick.
Like, seriously.
This is one of those memes that's going to be like top 10 anime betrayals or something.
Yes.
It
that definitely falls under that category.
Oh, God.
I almost want to see this now just because I kind of would like to see this massive hate sink of a character now.
Look up, because there's not even a ton of story. Just look up Tony Hawk Underground cutscenes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can see it for yourself exactly. And yeah. And it's more than just what he does. It's what he says and how he says it. Like, just the inflection in his voice. Like, his voice actor knew. He's like, how can I phrase and say these things in a way to piss you off? And it works.
He is a hateable character.
Like,
but he's one you love to hate.
Yes, I mean,
exactly.
I'm getting into meme territory now, so I understand I'm being hyperbolic, but I'm not kidding in the sense of, like, he feels like he was, like, made in a lab. Like, they genetically engineered this thing to be the most hateable mass of fictional cells that you could make in a skateboarding game.
He leaves you stranded in Russia.
So he's basically Gendo, but just cloning himself into video game form.
Oh, God. Yeah.
It's just...
But yeah, so if you have time, look that up. Same with you, audience. Just if you don't know the anguish of experiencing Eric Sparrow from Tony Hawk Underground, dive in. It is, and that's the interesting thing. Like, I've talked to other people who aren't even like huge Tony Hawk fans, and they'll all basically agree. They're like, "Oh, I hated that guy." Like, it's just it's a, and that's why I say we find this stuff relatable, Perry. It's a bonding thing. It is a universally agreed upon phenomenon that you hate Eric Sparrow. Like, I've seen him actually put on like top villains lists for like PS2 games.
Yeah.
Wait,
some of it is ironic.
Or actually,
some of it is ironic. I'm gonna say 25% of people put him on ironically, but 75% of people actually put him on there like legitimately, because he's not a murderer, so he's not gonna be up to par with like a lot of other ones like there. But in the context of what the game is, he is what you could ask for perfectly in an antagonist, especially because most of the time, if you look at it like from like the kind of cliche of what you have for like what you call it, like extreme sports games, 9 times out of 10 it's like some rich CEO who's trying to like buy out the skate park to make like a fucking parking garage or something, you know? So the fact that it's someone else who's also a skater, it's like when you and I have those talks, Perry, when we're talking about the idea of like a villain being very personal. Like, he's a very good personal villain, because what he does in the grand scheme of things doesn't negatively affect the world, but he fucks you over specifically, and that's why it hurts.
Yes.
Okay, I can understand that, but kind of taking a page out of your book, it's probably best if we move on a little bit, because otherwise we're going to just devolve into more villain territory. And I was like,
that's
we're mentioning
true.
how long it's getting, so.
Fair enough. I appreciate you nipping that in the bud, because you're right. I'm not kidding. We could talk about the exploits of Eric Sparrow for an hour. Anyways, to move on to the next one. Next up on the docket, Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Oh, that looks so good.
You mean Predator? Because she is just the Predator in this game.
Oh, it's so brutal.
What she is Arnold Schwarzenegger, considering the fact that she covered herself in mud.
You're right.
Which, okay, am I
I'd say it's like First Blood shit. Like Rambo First Blood.
Rambo First Blood. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Okay, let's be real. She's just every 80s action hero rolled into one with her new reboot trilogy.
Yep.
The succinct, perfect.
Yep.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if I've actually mentioned this with you guys, but is it kind of me, or am I just seeing traces of her original outfit in this new version?
I think that's intentional, because I think this whole trilogy is meant to be the how she became the Tomb Raider sort of thing. Because it's like, they keep saying first one is, Tomb Raider, and they mentioned, oh, this is how she becomes it. Then it's Rise of the Tomb Raider. It's like, okay, and this is how she gets closer to it. And there's a Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and this is what we'll say is like the dark catalyst that makes her eventually become the one that we knew from like the previous games. Like the hyper competent and hyper like confident, archaeologist extraordinaire sort of a thing. And this is sort of meant to be like a tempering her to becoming that. Because it's not to say that she doesn't kick ass already. It's just that she has to have an arc from really timid and scared to really like confident and competent, I would say.
She seemed to already do that fine from just the first game alone.
Well, yeah, but you gotta understand, she still had a lot of those moments of, like, fear and doubt that are kind of initiated in that one. Not that she was necessarily weak, but the idea of her just trying to kind of put herself together in a really tough situation, and that was her basically surviving, you know, and so that's where she gained her skill set, and now what's coming up is, I believe, the end of this arc, where now she's actively seeking out danger, rather than merely being the survivor of a happenstance when danger occurs. You know, because that was always the thing with, like, previous Tomb Raiders. It wasn't just, oh, I survived a shipwreck. It's, no, I'm going to this ancient temple. I might die. See you later, fucking butler man.
Yeah. I think what sets the tone for me for this game is, like, that one scene with the airplane, and the plane splits in two, and the guy who's sitting in the back is just fucked.
Yep.
And I'm like, damn, this game is gonna be raw.
Yep, it's gonna be brutal. Not that they weren't already, but you're right. Fucking hardcore. I agree.
I gotta say though, for the engineer, that is some shoddy craftsmanship when you made that plane.
The plane's falling apart. With the tightest seatbelt in the world.
Right.
This is why you never fly United, people.
Oh my god.
With that in mind, do we have anything else to say on this topic before we move on to the next one?
Honestly, I think I might actually get this one. Like, I didn't get the first one. I didn't get the second one. I might actually get this third one.
I'm going to have to finish the second one before I get this one because I love the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. Now this one's more my jam. The Shadows Die Twice game was finally announced and revealed. It is Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. And I'm just gonna be completely blunt. I think FromSoft decided they wanted to compete with Neo. Like, I mean, of course, obviously, you know, I'm not saying that they're ripping it off, because of course, you know, nobody owns, you know, Japanese history or culture or folklore or, like, looks or aesthetics. But I genuinely think they saw that coming up, and then they're like, oh, you think you can do a Dark Souls game just like us, and you think you can do it in, you know, feudal Japan. Oh, you're so cool. Fuck you. We're FromSoft. We're doing it our way now. And so they decided to do that, and oh my god, I am in love with the combat and everything else in this trailer. It looks like, I don't want to say this because it's gonna sound weird. It looks more Bloodborne than Bloodborne, in the sense that, like, Bloodborne was meant to be like a faster equivalent to what we saw in Dark Souls. And I feel like they're like, oh, you thought that was fast? And then they just turn the dial up to 11, and then, like, there, now it's a fast game.
What's even more surprising is who published this game.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Jalen, because here's the interesting thing I want you guys to consider, alright? Everyone is initially, I think, very confused as to why Activision, of all people, would be publishing this game.
Seriously.
Yeah, but here's my thought, alright? So, who are the two biggest publishers that From Software's had over their previous titles in the Souls series?
Sony and Bandai Namco.
Correct. They've had both of these publishers before. Now, Sony, we know Sony has the big bucks. They're a big hardware manufacturer. They're in the lead for the hardware generation. We know they put big money behind all their major titles. I mean, just fucking look at God of War, you know, and Bloodborne. We know they have the money and the time to put it into there, right? Obviously, Bandai Namco, while they might not have quite as huge a thing as Sony, they still put a lot of money into it, considering how financially successful Dark Souls has been. I mean, just look at Dark Souls 3. It, like, I'm not even kidding when I say it has 10 times the number of players that Dark Souls 1 has had. Consider that kind of, like, growth. That is tremendous when it comes to what they could do for it. So, Bandai Namco obviously has incentive to want to keep them around for any of the games that they're making. So my thought is, if you have two publishers who are very happy with the previous work of From Software, and then Activision comes along and they end up going with them as a publisher, Activision must have given them a spectacular deal to have them be chosen as the publisher instead of the person who they worked with the past like 4 or 5 games on, or the person who would give them a lot of money and console exclusivity.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, damn. Like, I'm really curious to see like going forward, like what's gonna happen with this game, considering it's Activision. They can be kind of iffy.
Yeah, no doubt. I definitely am always wary of Activision games. I guess my thought process is, if From Software didn't trust Activision, considering that they already know they would have gotten a good deal with Bandai or Sony, then they probably wouldn't have chosen them. And if they were like purchased by Activision, I feel like that would have been something that people would have announced by now. But
Yeah.
But that aside, I think the gameplay looks fantastic, and it looks very, very fluid, very fast. I like the kind of bone arm system, because I think that's implementing like different tools. Like, I think it's literally like where you would switch out your bone arm with different ninja tools equipped in the little part of the bone arm there. Kind of similar to the weapon arts that you had in Bloodborne. So I think all of that is going to be a very, very cool way to kind of go about it.
Did you hear that this is not an action RPG at all? It is just a straight action game.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So you won't have like a bunch of different like inventory slots for like your weapon or your armor? Or...
I don't think there's going to be any like stats or like level progression like that either.
That'll be interesting. I would have to kind of see how that goes, because I do generally like the kind of like variety of stuff that happens in these games. And I also noticed that maybe it's just because of the way that it's shown, but it looks like there's less of a chance that you're going to have character customization.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, the way he's designed looks way too... Because here's the thing. If they had him in, like, regular, like, samurai garb and you couldn't see his face and all this stuff, I would say, okay, character customization. But this looks like the main character.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the way they have, like, male shepherd in, like, the Mass Effect games. Like, you don't have to choose it that way, but people remember that face in, like, all the marketing material.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's either going to be the default character, or that is the only character, similar to how you can only play as William as he is in Neo.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very excited, and I would very much like to see more gameplay of it, and I'm interested to see where it goes. Do you have any thoughts on this one, Perry?
Shut up and take my money right now.
I'm glad you're excited for it.
No, I'm serious. Like, as soon as I saw this, I was like, God damn it, I'm going to have to shell money out for this one, too.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the Tenchu game I wanted, without Tenchu being in it.
Being Tenchu.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, actually, when I was watching Max's reaction to this one, I heard him say, like, he thought it was going to be Tenchu.
Yeah, because the line Shadows Die Twice was in the last Tenchu game that ever came out.
Oh, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
So
maybe it takes place in the same universe as Tenchu, but it just stars this character instead of anyone in that plot line.
Who knows? Anything could happen with From. And we made the whole plot of the game, but guess what? It's not actually in the game. Ha 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 ha.
Mm-hmm.
Read our art books.
You know, I'm not going to talk about this a ton, because I know I'd literally be here for an hour if I discussed this, but I've heard this tidbit as to why Miyazaki makes the games the way he does. What it is that he used to read like Western fantasy books, like in English when he was a child, but he wasn't fluent in English, and he didn't realize until he grew up and became more fluent in English that he had no idea what the fuck he was reading. Like, as in, he only understood about half of the words. So what would happen is he literally would read a book or a story about Western fantasy, and then the words he didn't understand, he would just try and figure it out by just guessing or using his own imagination. And that this is actually supposedly what inspired his story philosophy for all the Dark Souls and Demon Souls and Bloodborne games.
That's beautiful.
So literally, the
That
reason
makes
why
so much more sense now.
yeah, so literally the reason why there's so many holes in his story is because that is his method of emulating Western fantasy. Because to him, Western fantasy is a bunch of shit that you aren't supposed to understand. Because you don't understand half the shit that's present.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that, but like you said, Perry, I feel like that's a perfect explanation for why his stories are exactly the way they are.
Choke on that, theorist.
Yep. Anyway, with that in mind, I feel like we should move on to the next one here. Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition.
Oh my god, bananas, crackers, apples, it happened. We fucking finally getting this goddamn game on the PlayStation 4, the fucking PS3 content full bullshit. Fucking Bandai Namco pulling my balls.
God damn it, Jalen. Oh, damn it. Seriously, okay, that sounded very quaint at the beginning. But seriously, he said pull my balls. God damn it.
Jalen, I'm gonna use that as the stinger. Am I right? I'm gonna take just that clip, and that's gonna be what opens up the video.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
You know what? Actually, yeah, just have one of those bits that says, coming soon in this episode, pull my balls.
So, you sound excited. Oh god.
Well, yeah. If you don't know, Lenny, Tales of Vesperia was actually an Xbox 360 exclusive title, and was very popular in Japan. It was a system seller in Japan, actually.
Really?
And Tales of Vesperia is also considered one of the best Tales games in the franchise. So when it was announced, yes, exactly. So when it was announced that it was going to be a PS3 version with extra content, and it never came West Side, the fan base was, very pissed, and rightfully so.
Yeah, it sounds about right. But hey, it looks like I'm looking at the site here. It says this one's coming to PC in winter 2018, so it might not be PS4, but PC's got you covered.
Mm-hmm. Well, also, from what I understand, it's supposed to come out on everything,
Oh,
but
cool. I wouldn't doubt that. I'm just looking at the site that I have here.
mhm.
But if I see that anywhere else, I'd be like, awesome. I'm all for it. That's good.
Yeah, but yeah, and this is the version that has everything. So it'll have extra playable characters, extra like content, extra side quests and stuff like that.
Mm.
Um, complete with dual audio as well. So I'm assuming that means I wonder if any of the new content is actually voiced, because I know Troy Baker was the voice of Yuri Lowell, so the main character of the game. So and I know he doesn't do like too many like anime video games or anime at all anymore. So I wonder if they actually like if they had to recast every him, if there is any voice content.
I have no idea.
Yeah, me neither. Um, because when it's all in Japanese, and I've never played the game myself, well, not fully anyway. I've played a bit of it at a friend's place, but I wouldn't know, so I'd have to look it up.
Mm-hmm.
But this is exciting because it's been having the full complete version of Tales of Vesperia in the West has been something the fan base has wanted forever, and for some reason Bandai Namco was like, "Nah, you shouldn't. We don't want to do it." And then finally we have it. So thankfully, thank God, Bandai Namco. Jesus.
Awesome. Good shit. Perry, do you have anything else to say on this before we move on to the next game?
Sorry, I had to spend the next couple of minutes wiping away the tears.
Good. That is an appropriate reaction. Um,
Um, but no, my general reaction was yay of seeing the actual trailer, and I know a friend of mine, Rachel, who is a massive fan of Tales of Vesperia, and I tried sending her the trailer a while ago, trying to see if I could get her reaction. She never really responded to it, which surprised me. Anyways, uh, I'm really pumped about this. I've been a fan of the series ever since I played Grace's F, which apparently now looking in hindsight, a lot of people seem to not really like that one, which I don't know why. I
Um, there are some things. I think people don't like the whole friendship thing it has, and it's very blatant. But most people agree it has some of the best gameplay in the series.
Okay, yeah, I can understand the whole because I will admit, even I was starting to get a little bit tired of the whole like beating you over the head with the friendship thing. And granted, I would make a Kingdom Hearts joke, but I've already kind of made that, so I'll move on from that. Anyways, yeah, I've been a fan of the series ever since I played Grace's F. And so then I was like, okay, I'm gonna get every game in the series if I can when it comes out. And I've bought almost every other collector's edition. I fell off with Tales of Berseria because of the whole censorship nonsense, which I still am not buying that game for that reason. Unless there is an actual uncensored version I can play in English subtitles, which I don't think exists as far as I'm aware of.
No, I don't think so. I don't even think it's in the PC version. That game did have a PC version, right?
Yeah, there is a PC version. In fact,
Okay.
there's a slight plug. There's actually a Midweek Madness sale for the entire Tales series on PC for all the Tales games on PC.
Oh, that's really great. Tales of Symphonia too, I'm assuming.
Exactly. Anyways, yeah, I'm still excited for this. I hope that the Vesperia gets a nice collector's edition because I'll still say that Symphonia probably has one of the best ones I've seen in a long time.
Hmm.
I mean, it was just very well put together. It was nice. It was sturdy. It was just beautiful to look at. And hopefully, considering that Vesperia is, like you said, Jalen, one of the best regarded in the series, that they will do it proper justice when it comes out. I'd like to think that Troy Baker, though, is not so full of himself to think that he wouldn't come back to a game that, I mean, from what I understand, it was one of his earlier roles, yes?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going to be guessing correctly, it's probably one of the first roles that ever really got him noticed by people in the voiceover community, or at least by fans.
I want to say so. I definitely have to look up his history again, but
Well, either way, I would like to think that at least he has some slight attachment towards Vesperia, just a little bit, to want to come back and do the
hmm
voiceover. I don't know. Maybe I'm just projecting my hopes of like how Ruben Langdon, the actor for Dante, has such a enjoyment of playing the character that
hmm
Troy Baker would want to come back, considering it was maybe one of the characters that helped make his career or help jumpstart it a little bit.
yeah. That being said, don't bum rush his Twitter and be like, "Are you voicing Yuria in Desperia again?"
No, I'm not that dumb. Besides, I'm too stupid to use Twitter.
To be fair, I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to people listening.
Oh, never mind then.
yeah. Do remember, this is for an audience.
No, no, I understand it is for an audience. I'm just under the assumption, since we are still talking to each other, that it was.
yeah, of course.
But yeah, I agree. Don't bum rush his Twitter because let's face it, a lot of Vesperia fans are probably going to likely already do that right now.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. I'm kind of like interested in just doing it now.
Probably best not to. Let the man be. Either way,
I mean, like, just look, not say anything.
okay, fair enough. Either way, I'm super hyped for Vesperia Definitive Edition. I will definitely get it. It would be really cool if it came out with a figure like the other couple of games were, and it will most likely sell out really stupid fast, like they all do. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to when it comes out.
Sweet. With that in mind, this one should probably be quick. The next one on the docket is The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit.
Could not give less of a crap.
It literally just looks like an interactive like indie movie, like one you'd see out of Sundance. And not that that's inherently bad, but it's just like I at that point I'd rather just see the movie. Like I've seen a movie like movies like this, like a Turbo Kid is what it reminded me of. But it's it looks fine for what it is. I think I've heard people say that this is like supposed to connect season 1 and season 2 of Life is Strange.
Yes.
So that's all I know. It looks fine.
Well, to be specific, this is supposed to be like a bridge to Life is Strange 2.
Yeah, that's it. But that's all I got. I mean, it looks fine for what it is. I'm not really interested, if I'm being honest, because like I'm okay with cinematic games. You guys know I love Heavy Rain. I like Beyond Two Souls even better, and I like Detroit Become Human even better. But so I'm not opposed to the genre. It's just that this particular one, it's like I don't know, it just doesn't appeal to me as much. But looks like it's fine for what it is. Do you have any thoughts, Jalen, before we move on to the next one with this?
He looks like a fun kid.
Fair enough. All right. The next one we have is definitely not Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. And by that I mean Tunic.
Oh, you mean T-shirt?
Garment.
Oh my god. It's I'm sorry. I mean, I know that it literally it looks and it plays just like Zelda. I mean, it's got a really cool art style to it, and I think that helps make it unique, and the fact that it's not exclusive to a Nintendo system also helps, because now it's like, hey, now I can have a Zelda-esque experience without having to buy a Nintendo system, but it wears its fucking colors, it wears its inspirations on its sleeve so fucking openly. And I don't even think that's a bad thing. It looks like a charming little title,
Lenny, is there anything else you wanted to say, or?
Yeah, I was talking the whole time.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you.
Oh, okay. I will say to summarize the previous point here from that, because I guess it wasn't heard. It literally looks just like Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, but just with its own unique art style, and I think that's fine because now Xbox people have a chance to play a game that was usually only exclusive to Nintendo. So the fact that it's got its own art style and that it wears its inspirations on its sleeve very proudly means it's like, you know what, why not? As long as it's a good game and it doesn't try and deceive anyone, then I think it's going to be a cute, fun time.
I agree with that. It's not every day we get Zelda clones.
Yep. So yeah, I just think it looks cute. Definitely very much Link to the Past. Perry, you got any input on this before we move on to the next one?
So my thoughts on Blouse are pretty much the same as you guys. It does look pretty much like isometric Zelda, but you know what? Like you guys said, we don't get Zelda clones that often. In fact, the one I can only remember most in recent memory was 3D Dot Game Heroes, and that was an homage to 8-bit Zelda, but just way more crazy. So this just seemed to me like, okay, so this is taking more inspiration from Link to the Past Zelda. So you know what? I can perfectly see it being perfectly harmless.
Yeah, it'll be a fun rap, I bet. And we'll be like, damn, this is charming as shit.
Yep, I agree. With that in mind, we're gonna move on to our final thing. This is the lightning round, we'll say, and then we'll kind of conclude with our final thoughts for this particular segment, with this segment being EA and Microsoft's conferences. This is the list. I don't know if you guys saw this or not with the tag I listed here for the Xbox One. But they showed off about 22 different independent development at Xbox games that were shown off here. So as much as I would love to go through this whole thing, what I'm going to do is this. I am going to read off all of these, and I want you guys to just pick one out of the 22 that I'm listing that you want to discuss, and hopefully we'll all pick a different one that we want to discuss and then we'll kind of like say, oh, this is the highlight out of this one, and then we'll summarize our conclusions with the Microsoft conference with a review score, and then we will call it an evening.
Sounds good.
Let's do it.
Okay. The games are Outer Wilds, After Party, Kingdom 2 Crowns, The Golf Club 2019, Vermintide 2, Fringe Wars, Below, Conqueror's Blade, Waking, Raji and Ancient Epic, Super Meat Boy Forever, Planet Alpha, Island of Nine Battle Royale, Sable, Harold Halibut, a handmade adventure game, Bomber Crew, Children of Morta, The Wind Road, War Groove, Generation Zero, Dead Cells, and Ashen. I know that's a lot to take in there. I'm actually quite pleased with the number of titles there. But I'm gonna start off with what I would like to say or like to look at for some of this, and then in the meantime, you guys can kind of think over what you want to look at for this.
Sure, go right ahead, man.
Yeah, man, go for it.
Gotcha. So, my pick, honestly, out of the ones that I saw was Outer Wilds. I actually, when I saw this here, thought that it was a very interesting looking game, because I don't even know much about it at all, if I'm being completely blunt. When I was looking into this game a little bit, I just loved the way that it looked from a visual perspective, because, like, the main shot that got me, because it's like, I don't know what the genre is, but the shot that got me is when you're in some sort of ship, and you're zooming out of this wooded area, and you seem to see this large, I want to say it's kind of reminiscent of like Mario Galaxy, where like you just see this entire wooded planet as you slowly zoom out of it. And it's just small enough to where you get like a weird sense of scale. And being able to kind of explore around on this, it's giving me, I want to say, a more reasonable, we'll say, objective compared to, say, No Man's Sky. Because I'm very wary of space exploration games ever since that came out. But the idea that I like is that it seems to have a more consistent visual design to it, in regards to like what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to be doing it, and hopefully this can lead to a better experience overall. Because it looks crafted rather than randomized, and I feel like that can give you the direction that you need to actually like benefit from this. Especially because I don't know, I feel like it's a bit more goal-oriented, whereas No Man's Sky is sort of like a, you do whatever you want and then never figure anything out, ever. So, that one is one that I definitely liked. I also, if I'm going to sneak in another one, Fringe Wars is another one that I saw that looked pretty cool. I have no idea what it is, but it looks like just fucking baller space combat sort of thing. It's just, I don't use the phrase baller very often, so you know this game must be doing something special. And
it's forcing Lenny to expand his dictionary.
Right. So that is about all I really got on that. Is those are the two. I mean, it's mainly Outer Wilds, but Fringe Wars also looks like a very cool, well-made game about space exploration and combat. So those are the ones that I would say keep an eye out for. That's all I got for that. So, Jalen, what would you say your pick, or even picks if you have more than one, would be for this independent gaming?
I'm just gonna go for one. I'm gonna go for the one that the title stood out for me, and it was Raji Ancient Epic.
Cool. And did you actually see the trailer for this one at all during the conference, or?
No, I literally just picked it like a few seconds ago.
I gotcha. I would encourage you to look at some of the gameplay because it's got some pretty good art aesthetic to it.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I went to the site because there was literally nothing on GameSpot, so I went to the site and I figured it was gonna be something like based in India, and it definitely is gonna. The story seems to take from like ancient Indian mythology, and the girl has a staff. I'm pretty sure she's gonna hit things with it. It sounds like it's gonna be cool. He's gonna have cool Indian names that I can't pronounce, and that's gonna be great.
Nice. I'm glad you thought this one through, Jalen. That was a good decision on your part because it does look interesting.
Thank you.
Last but not least, Perry, what was your decision or decisions for what you wanted to pick for independent gaming for the Microsoft conference?
Well, for me, I guess the one that stood out to me the most was Sable
All right, why did that one stick out for you?
because it literally looked like Borderlands and Journey's love child.
I can't disagree with that. I definitely did like the art style of that one.
Yeah, I when I looked at it and saw the trailer for it, I was like, okay, so it has that similar vibe of looking for or exploration that Journey did. I don't know if it actually has a intended goal of going somewhere. It seems like you're just exploring this very desolate wasteland type character, assuming that there's a bit of a history to it and uncovering it as you traverse it with your, I'm assuming what you're going to call like a speeder bike or hovercraft type thing. So it definitely looks interesting. Also, I'm not going to lie, as soon as he started surfing downhill on the sand, it was like, total cue from Journey.
Yep.
So yeah, it very much looks like Journey, and Journey is one of my favorite games, pretty much period. So any game that kind of reminisces of that is going to catch my attention in some fashion. I think there was a couple ones that you mentioned beforehand that were like it sounded like they were historical based, correct?
Yeah, looking at the title here to make sure I got some of these here. So let's see. Kingdom Two Crowns is a bit more fantasy, so not that one. But Conqueror's Blade is one that I'd say is a bit more historical. Raji, I don't want to say it's historical. It's a little bit more ancient with a little bit of mythological stuff in there. Let's see. Bomber Crew, it's got a cartoony art style, but it is based on like actual plane bomber crews where you have to like man the plane by yourself. I've heard it's comparable to FTL in that you have like one ship and you're just kind of controlling everything on your own. And that's the only one I can think of that has like historical stuff. Ashen might have like knights in armor and stuff, but it's not actually based on history.
Okay, because I will admit I'm kind of interested in those games as well, mostly because it kind of reminds me of some other like pixelated art games, as well as seeing other historical simulators and games based around mythology. I mean, you know that I'm going to be interested in almost anything based around ancient history or mythology in some capacity, even if it is a more fantasy oriented type deal.
Right.
So yeah, I would put those as well in the same category of my picks, but I would say just if I had to pick one, Sable is the one that caught my attention the most.
Cool.
Just in terms of its overall art aesthetics and what it seems to be doing in terms of gameplay, I'm more curious to see what is the actual point of the game and what is the development behind it.
Mm-hmm.
See, like the studio behind it and whatnot. But yeah, those are my general thoughts.
Good to know. I'm glad you're able to explain it so thoroughly. It's good that I'm getting both your guys' perspective on this. It's because I literally the reason why I want to do this indie segment is because when I saw it this year, there were just so many that were running by that were just like wow, bam, 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 just like really cool shit. And I thought that was fantastic. And there's one I missed actually. I don't know why they didn't include this on the site here. But there's one that I didn't see listed that should have been listed. And that was the DLC pack for Cuphead.
Oh wow, 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 wow.
Yeah, it's an expansion pack with new bosses, new weapons, and the new playable character.
The Chalice.
Yep. And I fucking love Cuphead. I think that game is a fucking masterpiece, so anything being added to that is, like, amazing. And
yeah, really.
yeah, if it keeps up with that level of quality that we've seen from it before, I'm gonna be in love. All right,
Mhm.
it's just it already delivered what I would say is like a 10 out of 10 experience for me. Like actually though, and so adding more to that is like as long as they don't mess it up, then it's like congratulations, you made a perfect game, you made some perfect DLC for it. And it just fits. Everything just looks like it fits perfectly with what they're trying to go for, and I couldn't be happier for the team.
Mhm.
Considering the whole long dev cycle they had to go through and all the trials they had to do in order to get the game out in the first place. I mean, it's nice that it ended up as a happy success story.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
exactly.
Jesus.
So, anyway, with that good note here to end on with that, yeah, I just oh yeah, I was gonna say this. I don't know if I said this in full, but I liked the look of all the indie games so much when I saw it initially during that I basically was like, I'm gonna have to play all these because all the little trailer bits from this, maybe the exception of Golf 19, looked very interesting. I'm like, oh, I gotta play all these. So, and that's where I say we'll go to this final segment. We are going to evaluate Microsoft's conference before we conclude this particular podcast. So, Perry, I'm going to let you take the floor first. If you had to give an evaluation, and you can use it using either your personal scale or a 9 out of 10 scale, I'll let you choose. How would you evaluate Microsoft's E3 this year?
I would say I would give Microsoft a nice bottle of vodka out of 10.
Sweet.
Basically saying, hey, you did good this year. I want to give you a drink.
Good to hear. And how about you, Jalen?
They get an 8.
Very good.
Solid like releases instance of games. It bore people with talking. You didn't have really awkward dance numbers where people just looked awkward and danced. God, that was.
That we'll save that for another conference.
Yep.
And then fucking DMC5, you get plus 2 points for that, and then Vesperia, and then the bonus point for having 2 games that I really wanted, even if they're not exclusives.
Yep.
And also plus 3 points considering Cyberpunk made a surprise appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, 8, and those bonus points aren't really like the bonus points don't matter. The 8 is what matters.
Cool. And I think I already discussed this, but I gave him a 9 just primarily because, like I said, it was game, and it's just really cool stuff, a lot of really interesting titles, and it was just a good performance overall, just because they knew that people just wanted games. And even though they took a little bit of time to talk about some other stuff, that plus the fact that they don't have any actual exclusives is more my grind with them. But they did a fucking good job, though, so I gave them a 9. And that's about all I got on that. So, yeah. So I mean, that's all I got for that one. I'm pleased with the conference. Way better than EA. That's to be sure. But
That's not saying much, dude.
yeah. With that in mind, though, that's about all I've got. Do you guys have anything else you want to say to the audience before we call today?
I hope you guys enjoyed E3 as much as I did, because I thoroughly enjoyed it this year.
Make sure to stay in for part 2 when we get around to it.
Yeah. So I don't know for all of you listening out there, I don't know exactly the upload schedule we're gonna have for all these, but rest assured, we will definitely cover everything, even if it takes us a little longer than your Angry Joes and your IGNs. We will definitely deliver the content.
At least
Even
we're not
if
2
we
minutes long
release the
until it's
last
bull
part,
crap.
That's right.
even if we release the last part the day before E3 2019.
That's right. If anything, we are reliable, if not untimely. So we will.
This actually might work out a little bit in our favor. Just a small little thing. I actually will be getting a chance to go onto the E3 show floor tomorrow, actually. So if we're able to do some stuff tomorrow, I can give you some hands-on impressions as well.
Yo, play the RE2 demo if you get the chance.
I will definitely try. I do have a small little hit list of all the stuff that I do want to try if I can get my hands on it.
I would say, for me personally, if I had to pick only one for you to try, I would say Cyberpunk. Just because I haven't seen
Mm-hmm.
gameplay from it, and I'm going to be perfectly blunt about this. I have heard a lot of I've heard a lot of skepticism coming out of Razorfist's corner in regards to this game. And it's not that I want to go out of my way to prove him wrong, but I just want to see if there's any validity behind his claims that like the game doesn't have any gameplay yet because of all the development hell it's gone through. So I want to see if there's anything to back that up or not.
Honestly, I'm trying to rubbing his concerns off of my shoulder and saying, "Look, dude, you're the same guy that accuses CD Projekt Red of plagiarism with The Witcher, and yes, I don't blame you for that, considering what you talked about with shoot, what's his name from the Dark Fantasy series that basically does The Witcher does rip off. I can't remember this name to save my life right now.
Me neither.
So I understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, I was like, dude, it's not even the same game. It's not even the same franchise. Not to mention when they first came up with this, they had the original guy who created the board game for Cyberpunk on the team. So you kind of can't say this is plagiarism when that's
Well,
the original dude.
I don't think he's arguing that this is plagiarism as much as that the
No,
production
I'm
is
not.
just
I'm
like
not saying. I'm not saying he is accusing of a plagiarism. I'm saying that I'm not so worried about his concerns about in this one because let's be fair, he tends to be a little hyperbolic at times.
well, okay,
And
yes, he can be. It's just a more matter of like I tend like when it comes to like his points and other stuff, I don't agree with him on everything. It's just that I want to make sure that if I am disagreeing with him, it has a good basis in regards to like what he says or what we do. So if there is no gameplay and it's been in development for this long, because his argument is basically that they only were able to get something together now because even though they announced it like 4 years ago, they haven't been able to actually get started on it or contribute anything significant because of development issues. And so it's more a matter of does that claim have any weight to it? And it would not have any weight to it, or at least have much less weight to it, if they actually had a gameplay demo on hand. Which I remember niche gamers saying it, but I don't remember them actually posting anything about it after the fact. So I'd kind of have to wait for an update on them in regards to that.
I'm fairly confident that the CD Projekt has something up their sleeve for it. But if I do get a chance to mess around with a demo or something like that, or get some hands-on time with it, I will be more than happy to divulge anything I learn.
Yeah, and plus I know you would probably just want to do it for personal interest, honestly.
Oh, you know it.
If I was there, I'd want to get my hands on anything Death Stranding related, because fucking we'll talk about that.
Oh,
Yes,
we'll
we
get
will.
to it.
Uh, but with that, that is all we have for time this evening. Thank you, each and every one of you, for coming to watch, and we hope you will come back and join us for part 2. Goodbye.
Adios.
Farewell, everyone.